The words every UFC fan loves to hear. It's time for Beefy Boys Breakdown, episode 33. Third one in 7 days, but hey man, I'm not complaining. This is what I love doing. I love watching fights. I love talking fights. Love talking fights with my beefy brother Harrison. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. Man, did last night give us a lot to talk about. Some upsets, some great fights across the board. Title shot implications. Strong opinions kind of on either side of what we think could happen next. A lot of young rising prospects showed their stuff last night. So I'm going to get Harrison on here and we're going to discuss all of it. Let's talk some UFC 257, y'all. It was a big night last night.
Hey, what's
What
up?
is up, my guy, man? Good seeing you, man.
Always.
We were treated to a treat last night.
Dude, what a card. Honestly, man, kind of weird because, so many favorites were getting beaten that it almost was, left me, in shock more than anything. The dogs were barking, you know what I mean? But in the sense of, Marina Rodriguez, for instance, I didn't see that happening. There's a lot of things I didn't see happening last night.
No, totally. Like I said, we just got a big mix of everything last night. We got, young prospects building their name. We had a couple of top 10 upsets. Well, more than a couple top 10 upsets.
Yeah.
We had some women's fights that were kick-ass.
All three women's fights ended in a finish, too.
Yeah. No,
Which is unreal for the women's. Usually you have mostly decisions.
Yeah, no, the women definitely got off the bus. They showed up to whoop some ass last night. They put on a show.
Hell yeah.
There were no heavyweights on last night's card, right? Was this heavy?
205 was the biggest we got with Roundtree and Pragnio, which we'll get there too.
Yeah, we will, man. But yeah, man, let's get it started because, man, I was honestly pretty shocked that they had Albazi on the early prelim. I mean, when's the last time?
He was the opening fight. I could not believe that.
When's the last time they had a top 15 guy be the opening fight? I mean, I know it was a big card, but I mean, I don't know. He seemed fine with it, and with the weird time difference over there, I mean, I'm sure, he probably wasn't complaining too much about not fighting at 7 a.m. local time. But
yeah, that's a great point. Actually, I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, because Albazi's from Iraq, so his body's kind of on that clock already, as opposed to a lot of the Western fighters. So maybe that had something to do with it, maybe not. But honestly, I wasn't complaining. I'm not trying to cast that in a negative light. We got the night started with a bang, with names we recognize, which is a lot of fun to do, man. You go ahead.
Like you said, it almost never happens like that for us in the UFC.
Yeah, so man, totally.
It is nice to get that.
Go ahead and introduce this fight. I'm going to introduce myself to this L.
Bet. So Amir Albazi is fighting Shalgas Zumagulov. By the way, that is one of my favorite names in the UFC. Regardless of anything else, I just like that name.
He's definitely last place in the yearbook. Z last name, Z first name.
Bro. and if someone's a Zach, well, he is a ZH, so he's definitely past them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, they're both minus 110. This is an official pick'em. Obviously makes it a little more interesting. Now, coming into this, I liked Albazi, but I liked him to grapple and win with a submission. I thought that Zumagulov would try to take him down, get caught in a bad takedown, and get choked. That's really not at all what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, man, Albazi just seemed way more precise. You know what I mean? I think that would be a good way to describe it. Albazi brought that precision and just that energy. But yeah, like you said, it was a pick'em, which is always fun, I think low key a lot more of these fights are pick'ems, but they just have to make the number interesting.
Dude, yeah, honestly, some of these numbers last night, the minus 700s that we saw, so not worth minus 700.
Yeah,
neither of those guys.
Yeah, I 100% agree. On something that big, you better be betting on a Nunez or a Shevchenko or something, a guarantee.
Oh, it better be guaranteed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not a young prospect for sure. That was pretty strange. I agree. But man, yeah, round one, I actually gave to Zumagulov. I know it was somewhat controversial. I know a lot of people had different opinions on that, but that takedown at the end of the round, you know, did a lot in a round that was really close up to that point. And then also,
for me, the takedown is what sealed it for him, in my opinion.
100%. I also want to say that, like, Zumagulov, while he was less precise and it didn't look as pretty, when he landed, I feel like he was landing a little harder, which was the intent. Like, that was like the contrast in styles. But
he was awkward, right? Like, his just general movements were weird.
Yeah, 100%.
And I will say Albazi was doing a good job with the leg kick to kind of encourage Zumagulov to stay at distance or dash in. One of the two. He didn't really want to stay in like that A range, essentially.
100% agree. 100% agree. So we both gave round one to Zumagulov. Then round two is when Albazi really started to kind of take control. His ring control was on point in that round. He was definitely controlling the action, the tempo, the spacing, all that stuff that you like to see out of a fighter. Not a ton of damage. And then there were some late scrambles in which I think he kind of came out on top of those scrambles and you know, looked really nice in the scrambles.
He kind of had Zumagulov, it looked like, a little bit either on his heels or maybe even a little hurt toward the very end of the second.
Yeah. Towards the end of the second, Albazi really came alive. And it's cool because he carried that momentum right into round three because, like I said, going into round three, I pretty much had it 1-1. Well, it was a weird 1-1, though. Like, it wasn't a 1-1 that felt like anybody's fight. It was a 1-1
No, it felt like a toss-up.
But then in round three, Albazi, like I said, I feel like he kind of kept that momentum rolling from the end of round two. And he really started to get that grappling warmed up, and he took us back. And pretty much just rode out the third round spent most of the third round on his back, and I feel like that really kind of sealed the deal, if you will. Even though
I thought the third was the easiest round to score.
100%. Albazi really kind of separated. It seemed like Zumagulov's cardio started to fade in round three.
His cardio was fading hard. Although I will say he knew he was losing, and he pushed very hard at the end. So shout out to him for doing that.
That was so badass. It was like
a lot of guys don't have like the depth of character or essentially balls to go do that.
No, it was badass because you could tell he was gassed, and he just left it all out there. Like, we've all heard the coaches in the corner be like, "You're down, or you need this round, you need a finish," and then they come out and fight the same exact fight that they've been fighting. And it's like,
and it's like, okay, well, you were never going to get a finish, and apparently you don't care to.
Yeah, but no, exactly like you said, Zumagulov let it all hang out. Happy, I mean, you know, he has nothing to be ashamed of. Albazi ends up getting the unanimous decision, 29-28, which is exactly how we both scored it. You know, he hung on to his top 15 spot at the flyweights. He's interesting moving forward. He definitely shows skills. It's just he doesn't show that, like, I don't know, nothing about him screams elite to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's good and he's a
well-rounded.
Well-rounded.
That's what's coming to mind when I think about like Amir Albazi. He's just well-rounded. Like, he's good in all phases, but he's not a specialist in any sort of thing.
Seem to have natural power, which we talked about it on the podcast as well. You kind of sometimes some guys are born with it, some guys aren't. It doesn't seem like he was. I mean, the grappling is really nice though.
And they're fighting at 125, so it's like if you don't have power there, you don't have power anywhere because that's the smallest people can get.
Fact.
So
yeah, for sure. Also, I mean, I thought because I'm not mistaken, right? Albazi's the guy from Iraq, right?
Yeah, Baghdad.
And then, like, after the fight, he like shouted out like the victims of like a suicide bombing. Like,
yes, which just happened on our inauguration day, the 20th.
Wow, yeah, it was crazy. Like, I was like, right before he said that, I was like, damn, I bet this guy's seen some shit growing up in Iraq. And
yeah, think about his age too. He's 23 or 24,
so
he's younger than us. So literally his whole life, essentially, like with the exception of I guess the first 3 years of his life, his country's had someone occupying it, trying to kill the bad guys.
Yeah.
But, I mean, bad guys is in quotes because who's to say who's bad?
No, that gets real murky, you know, kind of like it did in Vietnam. And, I mean, any counterinsurgency, you know, gets those waters get – it's not so much black and white. There's a whole lot of gray area when it comes to wars like that.
And he kind of alluded to that, too, whenever he was like, just want to shout out those suicide victims. And he was like, and also any of my Iraqi brothers that have shed blood for our country. And it was like, damn.
Yeah, I found myself kind of trying to wonder what he meant by that too, but also
I was like,
that I would never kind of fully get it. You know what I mean? Like not to pull an old Donnie T, but I'm sure there kind of are fine people on both sides. Like it doesn't like I'm sure he has a couple of childhood friends. You know, that like, he probably maybe went down the wrong path or whatnot. But yeah, man. But we'll keep it pushing. Albazi retains his top 15 ranking in the flyweights. Men's flyweight, the bottom end of men's flyweights a weird kind of shuffle of guys.
The
But
flyweight is just a weird division on both sides, and the women don't have the same excuse of it being their bottom division in weight. But
yeah,
I don't know why. It's a weird weight.
definitely a weird weight for sure, man. But yeah, man, we'll keep it pushing because this was the first of these massive money lines.
Dude, I want to know how you feel about this fight.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Because we got the veteran Nick Lentz fighting the undefeated, rising, up and comer Masvar Evloev, and we've done an Evloev fight before, and I'm pretty sure we were damn impressed with them last time, weren't we?
We were, but I would like to note his nickname needs to be the Monstar. Movsar the Monstar Evloev.
That would be sick.
What a good nickname.
I don't know if Space Jam might not have came out yet.
Disney's not with it. Although ESPN owns, or Disney owns ESPN. So.
Oh, okay. But yeah, man, so in round one, Lentz, I actually gave it to Lentz because highly controversial because Lentz.
Oh, wait. No, I scored it for Evloev. Okay. Tell me why you scored it that way. Because I'm interested, and I don't fault you at all. Like, I think that it's 50-50. I just want to hear why you lean that way.
Yeah. So, and I totally feel you. Even though I feel this way, I totally understand that it's kind of a shaky argument, and I kind of just picked this lane, and I'm going to ride with it. But so most of the round, I feel like over 2 minutes of the round was spent with Evloev on top of Lentz, but Lentz had Evloev.
But defending.
Yeah, Lentz, who's known for his tight guillotine chokes, had Evloev in a tight guillotine.
Very tight. Very tight. I don't know how he
times.
didn't tap on the one where he rolled over the top of him. I don't know how he didn't tap.
There was 2 different times when he almost had that guillotine sunk in. And so whenever I was scored this fight, I kind of looked at danger factor. And I'm trying to emphasize that more in my scoring lately as opposed to just being so position focused. Are you using that position to inflict damage? It's kind of like a secondary level, dig a little deeper into that. And it's while Evloev did have the position advantage in the majority of the first round, he was also in the most danger and got almost finished twice in the first round. So I said, I lean Lentz, but I totally, as the broadcast crew was saying all night, it's extremely rare and extremely hard to win a round from your back. And I totally get that, and I imagine that's probably the angle you're coming from. But No.
I was gonna say sorry, there's an Amazon guy outside. Let me.
No worries.
Titus, sit down.
Shout out Titus.
And so what I started thinking about, because I was having this discussion with Kenneth, because Kenneth was all over Evloev winning because he's dominating the position, and I'm like, he's not though, because he's being the one pulled into that position. He's not choosing to go there. He's having to defend there. So here's what I thought. The way I'm going to start looking at submissions that get locked in and the dude has to actually, escape the submission, that's a knockdown for me. Because if we're on the feet and you get knocked down, that's not a knockout, but it's damn close, right?
Wait, but you're saying you scored round one for Evloev, right?
I did in the moment, but the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought, I think Lentz actually does take that round.
Yeah, no, and I know, like I said, I know it's controversial, and there's the very clear argument for giving Evloev round one, but for all the reasons we just listed, I felt pretty good about giving round one to Lentz. Especially when you just factor in that Evloev was a minus 700 favorite, and then it's 50-50. I don't know, maybe right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm gonna kind of lean the underdog if it's super close and and you're a minus. This fight shouldn't even have made it.
You should be dominating. It shouldn't even be close.
Yeah, man. But I think round two, Evloev did start to kind of wake up and kind of realize that he had to fight much better moving forward, or else he could definitely lose this fight.
So how'd you score round two? Because I wrote in my notes, ask D-Mac how he scored it, because I'm fully coin flip on two.
No, and my notes are pretty much longer than my normal notes as well. This is a close fight. Fun way to not start the night, but fun way to end the early prelim for sure. In round two, Evloev really started to widen the gap on the significant strike numbers, and Evloev can strike, and they weren't meaningless strikes. He was
hitting. Yeah, and Lentz was getting beat up. Yeah, his face was
wearing the
beat
damage.
Up.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from being an older veteran
scar tissue
guy. Yeah, exactly. However, I literally said round two Evloev due to significant strikes, but Lentz is giving him all he can bargain for. Literally what I wrote. It was a very close round. Lentz, like I said, this fight without the context of Evloev being a minus 700 favorite, like you really got to just take everything we're saying under the context that Evloev was supposed to mop the floor with this guy.
Right, like this was supposed to be an easy victory for Evloev.
All the commentators and all the broadcast crew were pointing out that they were shocked at the huge money line spread because Lentz was such a tough, wily veteran. So, and
right.
I didn't get a chance to read the comment. My bad eyes. Well, what's going on?
Says, oh, at first I thought that was Bam Margera, and I'm trying to think who they could think. I don't have any hair, and he has curly brown hair, and your hair's dreadlocked. Well, so I'm not sure.
I don't know,
but
I
love
go slap
Bam.
a fat guy just to just to fulfill the energy, you know.
Careful with the Don Vito, you know.
That's hilarious. You bring that up the other day. I was stoned the other day scrolling through fucking like Amazon Prime, like trying to find something to watch. Came across Celebrity Deathmatch. When's the last time you watched Celebrity? And it was the fucking Bam Margera Tony Hawk one. And like Don Vito literally sucks like Tony Hawk into orbit because he's so fat. And so hilarious that we actually bring that up while that's fresh on my mind. But we'll keep it pushing to round 3 of this Lentz Evloev fight. And round 3, Evloev really started to pull away. Round 3 looked how everybody, including especially the odds makers, apparently thought the whole fight was going to look.
I wrote that he probably won the fight. Like, he dominated round 3. It was 10-9. I don't have any questions about, like, him winning or losing that one, obviously, right? But what's interesting here is that this is a split decision.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the first split decision in a long time that we weren't mad as a split decision. Like, this fight was textbook split decision. Like,
absolutely,
one guy
it
won
was.
one
It's
round.
all how you score 1 and 2.
Exactly. Like, I think it's pretty safe to say that Lentz won 1, Evloev won 3, and then however you scored 2 kind of, you know, is how you determine the outcome of this fight. But like I said, I also believe that Evloev won the fight. The third round, I mean, just looking at the two guys' faces, I mean, Evloev definitely beat up Lentz. I just think that Lentz gave him, you know, all he could bargain for, gave him, you know, put up a hell of a fight, definitely proved that it shouldn't have been a minus 700. And, I mean, fought a valiant fight, you know. I mean, I don't think anybody's expecting Lentz to, you know, make some money at the end of his career. And then Evloev is an undefeated, rising, you know, killer. Also, we didn't mention this fight took place at a 150 catch weight, which, you know, you don't see every day.
True.
So I think that's because it was a last minute, like, they were both supposed to fight different people, and then they ended up fighting each other. So that's the reason for the catch weight. But yeah, Evloev, I mean, I gotta say, I don't know. Do you take any steam out of the old Evloev hype train after this, or?
Yeah, I'm moving to the back of the van on the hype van.
Yeah,
hype van.
but I know, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it definitely showed a chink in the armor, right? Like, he definitely showed that he could struggle with a veteran grappler, which a lot of young strikers struggle with veteran grapplers. So I mean, it's not like necessarily. Like, that's why this money line shocked me so much. I mean, I get it. Like, Evloev's the better fighter, and I definitely think he should have been the favorite. But minus 700, a young striker versus an old grizzly veteran grappler. I mean, how many times have we seen that go squirrely? I mean, plenty.
Well, and not to mention that, like, both the minus 700 favorites on this card did not look that great last night.
Yeah, Vegas, the odds makers in Vegas, I bet they're getting their ass. They're fucking sleeping with the fishes this morning, man.
Well, I mean, the minus 700 is defended, though. You know, like, they won, but not impressively. So I bet Vegas actually reaped on that.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, man. But yeah, so I mean, I gotta say, out of the early prelim, this is the best early prelim I can imagine. I mean, I can remember it.
Oh, for sure.
Quite some time. Like, I mean, I know I honestly think it's hella pointless to separate the early prelims
it's so weird
from the prelim.
Do that, man.
Because used to, it was only on Fight Pass, so they were trying to get people to sign up for Fight Pass.
Yeah, early Fight Pass prelims. Like, that was like the marketing
But now
strategy.
that they're on ESPN Plus, like, just why separate it? Like, what's the point? I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. But now, I guess technically there's a distinction. We're moving on to the prelims. That was the early prelims.
Yeah, start of the real prelims now.
Yeah. What's the difference, right? But like I said, best early prelims I can remember. That was a badass early prelims. And yeah, man, we move it on to this Khalil Roundtree versus Marcin Pratniel.
Yep, and this is when the dogs started barking.
Yeah, man, and this fight was a lot of fun, man. These were essentially the two biggest guys to fight on the whole card. Roundtree was a minus 360 favorite. Prachnio plus 280. And a lot of money was coming in on Roundtree because, like, so that's another thing I'm going to talk about a lot on this episode of Beefy Boys, the moving lines, because this was the most discrepancy between the UFC website and then the walkout odds. Like, almost every one, the line was moved. The lines were moving last night. And it makes sense. A McGregor fight, lots of casuals betting. So, but this is some of the most, almost every single fight had a lot of line movement. Like, so like Roundtree started at minus 335 and got bet up to minus 360. And then Prachnio started off as plus 250 and got bet all the way to plus 280. So
I played a part in that. I bet Khalil Roundtree to win. I bet him by first round KO.
Yeah.
And I played him in DraftKings.
Man, well, it should have, before the
Terrible.
fight, I should have done a little more research on this fight, because before the fight, they were talking about Prachnio, and they said I think he had finished like 19 of his 20 fights by knockout or something like that.
But he's lost 3 in a row by knockout.
Yeah. So your prediction of somebody's going to sleep, I mean, it did make a lot of sense, before the fight for sure. And then you just take one look at Roundtree and you be like, yeah, I bet that guy knocks plenty of guys out.
And he's a Muay Thai guy, so he should be throwing like hard elbows, knees, and down the center line mostly. Like Muay Thai's not a big like outside the, even not like hooks and shit.
Yeah.
Well, Prachnio is susceptible to right cross and left crosses, so it was like this is just on paper like it's a KO, like it's a KO, and then it wasn't.
Yeah, man. Round one, I thought Prachnio came out and just kind of established, the range more than anything. That sidekick from Prachnio was there all damn night. I honestly thought he should have gone to it more. I would have been just going to the well. Maybe he was afraid to get taken down or something. But that sidekick, I feel like, was there all night. And not only did it establish that B range, it also, I mean, obviously did damage to the body. And kind of a big muscle-bound guy like Roundtree, going to the body early can definitely pay dividends.
And I think it did for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, I think that was a great strategy. I also scored the first for Prachnio after I looked at the stats. I was like, that was a close round because I thought Roundtree was landing a little bit cleaner, like harder shots. But then the numbers I looked at, and I was like, oh, this is just Prachnio's round. Like, it has to be.
Yeah, because it wasn't like Prachnio wasn't landing hard. I agree that Roundtree was landing harder, but Prachnio was still definitely cracking. And then just the leather
and the
was
volume
popping all night. Like, all the tweets coming up on screen were like, it sounds like firecrackers. And it was a lot of fun. Like, these guys were – I think Matt Brown tweeted that his son was like, Daddy, these guys want to knock each other out. It was a very, very solid analysis by young lad Brown for sure. And, yeah, no, this fight just – it's what you want when you see two buff guys walk in the ring. They weren't dancing around. They were exchanging. They were landing clean. It wasn't a leg humping fest or a dance fest. I mean, they were in there, throwing leather, man. It was badass.
Now, here's where I have like a big problem with this fight is the second round. Because I think Roundtree wins the second round, right?
Yeah, me too. I gave Roundtree to round two because he
dropped
had
Prachnio hurt bad.
Yeah, he dropped him.
Didn't finish him. He had a minute to do it. There was a full minute when he dropped him. For 60 seconds, he didn't go for that kill.
Yeah.
I got a problem with that. Like, he was physically hurt, and then he hit him again and hurt him. And, like, when someone gets hurt twice, you finish him, right?
Well, especially got big guys like this and a guy like Roundtree who's known.
Especially when you lose the first round.
No, I feel you. It was. I mean, I kind of look at it the other way around. That's going to be a kind of a theme of how I viewed the fights last night. Was I kind of give the credit to Prachnio and his chin and his balls and his heart. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to necessarily hold that against Roundtree as much as I give credit to Prachnio, but maybe I'm just looking at things glass half full. And then, but you're right. Roundtree took 2, so going into 3, it was 1-1. But Roundtree did drop Prachnio, and up to that point, Prachnio had not dropped Roundtree. So it kind of felt like Roundtree had a little bit of momentum going into 3.
Yeah, you would think, but I think the calf kicks and the body kicks started to pay a lot of dividends in 3 because Roundtree looked pretty tired. He was slowed down for sure.
Yeah, and Roundtree was not doing a good job of mixing up his strikes. He was essentially throwing head punches.
basic.
Yeah, And like we said, Pratnio was coming with the leg kicks, the side body kicks. You know, he was mixing it up pretty versatile. And like you said, I think it started to pay off in the third round, especially a big muscle bound guy like Roundtree. But yeah, round 3, Pratnio, he had the volume advantage. And he started throwing the right straight to the body that was landing clean, like at will. It really, I mean, his ability to go to the body essentially kind of what made the difference in the fight. And in my opinion, if I had to kind of pinpoint one thing that Pratnio did well that Roundtree did not do well, is definitely mixing up the striking and going to the body. And yeah, he looked good. I mean, beating a guy like Roundtree, I mean, he was a big underdog. Like you said, this is when the dog started barking. You know, Pratnio, you know, he's a dangerous fighter. He's not like he definitely has holes in his game and obviously can be beaten. He has been beat a lot of times, but he's one of those guys that's not going to be a fun or clean fight. Like, you're going to have to go trade some leather with him.
Dude, I just know that the UFC wanted him out, and this was like Roundtree's like opportunity. Like, they gave him someone where they're like, look, this guy's susceptible to like what your skill set is typically the best at. Like, get yourself maybe a bonus, get you a win, get him out of the UFC for us. And he just failed, dude.
Yeah, it is always a little, I don't want to say awkward maybe, I don't know, but whenever you see a guy that's like, the UFC serves something up on a platter to him, and then they just like grab the platter and throw it across the room like that Always Sunny in Philadelphia gift. But yeah,
but that's exactly how it feels. And like, I mean, definitely I'm more mad at him because I bet on him it didn't work out than anything else, right? Like his performance in the octagon, he's the ultimate guy that suffers from that. But what sucks about that, I think just especially, is like, I was pretty big on him building himself up too. Like, he had talked about in his past, he had all these like anxiety issues, and like actually getting out to the cage and being in the fight week is almost more difficult than the actual fighting itself for him. I think that looked absolutely not true last night.
Well, the thing, I don't know, man. I think the light heavyweight division in general, and it'll really be proven true if Stylebender goes ahead and takes this belt, is moving
Reyes Prohaska too now.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, like, because back in the day, light heavyweights are like these jacked, like back, you know, pre-USADA days for sure, you know, big jack muscle guys.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's just not about that anymore. It's more about the dexterity and athleticism and length, and I feel like that's kind of more. And I don't know, Roundtree, even if he would have won this fight, I just think he had like a ceiling on his like potential. Just because I feel like he's kind of a throwback. He's kind of not what the light heavyweight division has turned into. I mean, that can always change, but I don't know. My little kind of takeaway there. But Pratnio ends up getting the unanimous decision. So he cashes as a plus 280 underdog. And like I said, started the trend of the underdogs in the upsets. And we'll keep it pushing to this next fight. Got some bantamweight women. Juliana Pena versus Sarah McMahon. Pena's number 7 ranked bantamweight challenger. McMahon number 9 ranked bantamweight challenger. This fight had tiny bit of line movement. Pena was the plus 105 underdog and stayed that. McMahon started off as a minus 130 favorite, and then it dropped the tiniest bit to minus 125. So not a whole lot of line movement there. But I know you really liked. How did you feel about this fight going into this? You like Pena as underdog, right, or no?
Yeah, no, she was one of my favorite picks of the night. Like, I liked her, I liked Roundtree, I liked Albazi to get a potential sub in that first round, like we had talked about, and then there were a few other people I liked that we'll get to. But like, Juliana Pena was probably one of the people I was the biggest on.
Yeah, I was honestly a little shocked to see her the underdog, but McMahon obviously has a lot of credentials and had a lot of experience. And just McMahon is just jacked.
Jacked. That's funny you say that. My first notes are McMahon is jacked.
I literally have the same note. I swear to God, yeah. She's just so physically strong. I mean, her upper
triceps,
body,
her shoulders. Yeah, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, no, she is jacked, like bodybuilder jacked. She's huge. And then, but it's not obviously she's great wrestler. She was I think in the Olympic freestyle wrestler.
silver medalist.
Yeah.
Freestyle
so,
Olympics.
I mean, it's not all just flash. Like, that's functional strength as well, which is rare. Yeah. It's rare when that functional strength meets like statuesque physique. Like, usually it's kind of one or the other, but it's physically impressive.
Like Ben Askren is a good example of like is very strong or Khabib, but they don't look like they're physical freaks. This girl was physically freaky and clearly had that strength as well.
Totally, 100%. And yeah, fighting at the women's bantamweight division. Man, so how'd you see round one, brother?
So I gave round one to McMahon.
Yeah,
I
me
thought it was
too.
10-9. I thought it was pretty obviously to her. She was just clearly the stronger woman, was
Yeah,
kind of
that's
just like
strength.
forcing the fight to take place where she wanted it to be. And so Pena was just defending the entirety of the round.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, I went 10-9 McMahon.
She started to land those ground and pound elbows.
Now I will say I saw that and I was like,
Yeah,
now wait a minute now.
yeah. I was
She's
like,
pretty damn active. And McMahon wasn't doing a lot with her top control.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true.
Now she did land a couple hard elbows in the first, so like
that's what I was gonna say though. I just seeing how Jack McMahon was and knowing just in general how damaging elbows can be. I was just like, how many of these like that can change a fight like just right then and there. But to Pena's credit and to her chin's credit, she didn't let it, really be that much of a factor.
And she kept attacking too. Like
yes,
she never stopped attacking from her back.
Yeah, so super active guard, which
she landed 97 ground strikes in the fight.
And a lot of them were from her back.
Most of them.
Yeah, which
like I scored the second for Pena. How'd you score it?
Yeah, I actually scored the second for McMahon. I mean, it was a close round, and McMahon didn't land as much damage, but I just felt like her grapple control. Neither fighter was landing a bunch of damage. So it's like I said, I know I was trying to stop using control so much to judge around, but whenever there's not a lot of damage, I mean, you kind of have to default to control. And I thought McMahon was controlling a lot of the grappling positions, but I mean, like I said, it wasn't a dominant round, and I'm not I could easily see how you can score that for Pena.
I just scored it for Pena because I thought she was landing pretty clean shots, even when she was on her back. I'm pretty sure she got taken down that round as well, right?
No, she did. Yeah, she did.
Yeah, when she was on her back, she was throwing those hard elbows. McMahon did not like those.
No, she didn't. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the Lynch fight, though. It's really hard to let to win a round from your back, and especially when there wasn't any tight subs locked in or anything like that. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm not mad at you giving it to Pena, but I definitely feel confident in me giving it to McMahon based on the grappling. And then round three, that's what I thought made this so sweet about round three, because so on my card I had McMahon up 2-0 and Pena needing a finish going into three.
Right.
So whenever she got it, spoiler alert, but we've arrived at that point. She gets the third round rear naked choke, and had the ground and pound. She kind of ground and pounded and then took her back, and it was
got the hooks in. Did a good job to stay on her back too. McMahon was doing some good techniques to try and dump her off to the side or over her head, but Pena did a good job there. She was patient.
When just like we were talking about earlier, how we were saying every time a fighter's down 2-0, which I imagine that's probably what her corner told her, even if they thought she might have round two. You tell your fighter that to get him to come out and fight, But
oh yeah.
But I mean, we've heard it a million times. Oh, you got to get a finish. You got to get this round, and then it's just more of the same old, same old. Because I think if Pena would have came out and done more of the same old, and kind of got dominated in grappling, I think she would have lost the decision.
She actually got a takedown from the clinch with a trip in this round, and I was really impressed with that.
Yes,
because I mean that's a silver medalist Olympian that she just got a trip on.
Totally, and she just, I don't know, it seemed like a different confidence level, or maybe a tweak in game plan, or just maybe a sense of urgency that she knew she had to pull a rabbit out of the hat. But either way, that's exactly what she accomplished. That's one of my favorite things in mixed martial arts. The guy down 2-0 and then gets the finish in the third. It's cool. It's like a comeback victory in football, or
what's even cooler about it is Pena's last fight. Most people thought she won the first 2 rounds, and then she got submitted in the third round of her fight against Jermaine Durandamy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, man.
But you think about, she won 2 out of 3 rounds from Durandamy before getting subbed. That's why I was so big on her. I was like, and Sarah McMahon's 40, kind of at the tail end of her career. I'm like, how is this not in Pena's favor? So I love the plus 105 number.
I gotta say, man, the fact that McMahon's almost 40, or she is 40, and she looks like that.
Crazy.
I mean, as a female, I mean, as a
right.
man, I don't even know if we've seen that just physically.
I've never seen that in any other women's sport.
Honestly, it makes you question, but we all know how strict USADA is. So, it's like that's what's cool about USADA, as annoying as they can be sometimes, is it doesn't make you have those little questions
Yeah,
floating in the back.
I never worry about people being on the sauce.
Yeah.
Like if they are, USADA gets them.
Yeah, for sure. But like, if it wasn't for USADA, I'd be like, what the fuck is McMahon on? But just physically. But yeah, Pena gets the win. Another underdog, smaller underdog for sure. Since you got that ground and pound sit up, the rear naked choke, got the finish against the top 10 fighter. I mean, she set herself up for and it's different because ordinarily I feel like in most men's divisions, you know, the number 7 beats the number 9. You don't really get the liberty to make a title shot call out. But in this women's bantamweight division, and the lack of parity, and how and Nunes has already almost fought and beat almost everybody in the top 10 almost. And it's like
pretty much.
Yeah,
so got a few names left.
So it presents this kind of unique opportunity where like the stars and moon align, where it actually made sense for Pena to call out Nunes. And I'm not saying she would beat Nunes, or I'm not even saying that she will get the title shot or that she deserves it. I'm not saying any of that. But I'm just saying it's not as absurd as maybe. I'm sure some people saw that and was like, what? Calling out the title shot, 7 beating 9, like what? But in this unique circumstance where Nunes has already beat everybody.
She's already beat like 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 or something like that.
And the matchmakers are proving with Justin Gaethje that they're kind of not keen on like repeat title shots, or like they want parity as far as new people fighting for the belt. And that precedent has been set in some of the, men's divisions. So I don't know. I could easily see a scenario where Pena gets the shot. Now, do I think she wins that? Honestly, hell no, because like we were talking about McMahon's strength this whole time, and obviously Nunes is just as strong, if not stronger. So
and she can strike her ass off
way more than McMahon can. So yeah, losing 2 rounds, in my opinion, to McMahon like that and being just physically dominated much of that fight like she was, I do not like her chances against Nunes. But like I said, I love the call out. I don't know. I feel like I can have my cake and eat it too. I can love the call out and still not think she can win. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think there's any woman alive that can beat Nunes right now, other than maybe Kayla Harrison, but they would have to meet at like 50 or 45.
That would be cool.
No, probably 50.
That would be so cool. I want to see that.
That'd be tight.
That would be cool. But yeah, Pena looked great. Number 7, like I said, I mean, definitely if she doesn't get the title shot, she probably gets a top 3, 100% top 5 shot next. So yeah, she's officially, ascending, bouncing back from that GDR loss, and making noise in that women's bantamweight division.
Yes, sir. I mean, good for her. Well, hopefully Nunes either cleans out the whole top 10 or maybe just retires soon, because like it's kind of getting the John Jones thing where it's like she's going to get bored of fighting these girls and kind of lose purpose in it, I feel like.
Yeah, which is like, I know, like kind of random, but part of the reason why I don't necessarily want to see Khabib back.
I don't either.
And we'll get into some scenarios. I'd like if
maybe in like a year.
Yeah, like maybe if now Chandler goes on to beat like all these guys.
That's the key, is if you want to be 29 and Chandler, as he says it.
Yeah, man. We'll get to that. We have plenty of time to talk about all that. But yeah, this next fight I thought was very interesting, man. We got Brad Tavares versus Antonio Carlos Jr. Tavares
super interesting fight.
Yeah,
because Carlos Jr. called out Tavares in his last fight.
Yeah, and then we got the storyline of Tavares coming off the ACL injury, hasn't fought in over a year. The 14th ranked middleweight, so kind of, and how many middleweights? This is the guy that we can never remember. Every time a young middleweight does really good, we're like, who's the 15th ranked middleweight? Who should we?
Yeah, that's a great point.
This is the guy that always slips our mind, because we always say, is it Shabazian? Or we're always like, this is the guy that we can never think of. Brad Tavares. So yeah, he's the 14th ranked middleweight. So coming off an ACL injury, hasn't fought in over a year. That's always a total coin flip.
Yeah, honestly, though. And then, I was like pretty nervous about that.
This is another fight where the line moved a lot. So Tavares started as a minus 135 favorite, and he got bet all the way to a plus one, or really Carlos Jr. got bet all the way in there. Tavares finished at plus 100.
Yeah, which I was amazed with, and I think in our message with Sammy Smith yesterday, that was another one that we talked about, that we said Tavares has great value at the plus 100.
Yeah, man, yeah, that line moved quite a bit.
Because he has a decision loss to Anderson, or not Anderson, to Adesanya, and it's like, dude, right, exactly right. He went 5. That's important to note, because that was the Ultimate Fighter finale.
Yeah, man.
So, like, that's a 5-round main event. So it's like Tavares is a game-ass 185, and he showed that, I think.
Yeah, man, and like I said, just it's a total coin flip coming off that ACL. You know, they're either going to look like a shell of themselves or, you know, pull an Adrian Peterson and look better than ever and have all that leg strengthened up and ready to go. And that's kind of how it looked. But, yeah, man, there's been a lot of money coming in on Carlos Jr. A bettor came in late with $20K on Carlos Jr.
That was crazy.
Yeah, they put that up on the screen. But, man, pretty much all Tavares, man. He looked fantastic. He looked much, much faster than Carlos Jr. And just looked like he had a better fight IQ than Carlos Jr. as well. Like he looked great. Like I said, to round one, Tavares definitely had more strikes. And then he was stuffing every single takedown. And I know we've talked on this show. It's like you don't necessarily score takedown defense.
I think he was 10 of 11 defending takedowns.
That's what I'm saying. Like when it's
but
that
he's a
good,
badass. He's a badass wrestler.
Yeah, but Carlos is a good grappler. Everybody just thought Carlos was going to out-grapple him, and he just shut.
I was surprised by that.
He shut that narrative down just from the start, and it never turned back on. Because yeah, man, Tavares was stuffing takedowns. He put on a clinic, man. He put on a clinic.
Absolutely.
Like when I was playing football as a linebacker, and we had this drill to practice defending cut blocks, where coach would roll this big ball at our legs, and we were just stuffed. It's kind of similar to stuffing a takedown, and I just that's what it reminded me of all night. Just textbook stuff the takedown drill and in sprawls and just every way that stuff the takedown. He was had it on full display.
And then he did a great job of whenever he would go in on a shot, Tavares, that is, he would either run him to the cage and get them pinned up in a clinch that way, or he would kind of use it to set up his striking. I felt like I thought Tavares did a really good job stylistically and strategically here against Carlos Jr.
Every time there was a decision, right? It's like a fork in the road. He would always make the right choice.
Right.
There was a couple
he was
of times,
just ahead in the chess match.
Totally. Yeah. He's winning the mental game for sure. And then talking about mental game, physical game in round two, Tavares actually dropped him with I think it was a right.
Yeah, and also Carlos Jr. I think pulled a fake nut shot.
That was questionable. I don't think it was
the most
fake.
questionable.
I think it was like a ricochet. I think it bounced off the arm and into the like a glancing blow. I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily fake. I think it was a ricochet.
He took a cool 2 minutes to come back from that.
Oh, and I think it was definitely
right 10 seconds after he was hurt.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, that's the part that honestly I was just hoping. I had my fingers crossed. I was like, I don't want this to change the outcome of the fight, because I get it.
Right.
I was kind of torn because I didn't think it was necessarily a fake nut shot, but I do think he over milked it to fully recover from the knockdown.
Yeah.
And I was like, if he comes back and wins this is going to be kind of questionable. Luckily, we didn't have to worry about that because in round three, Tavares just more of the same, man. Tavares striking and takedown defense was just a clinic, man. It was
absolutely
textbook. You young fighters should watch that film and just learn about takedown defense and just outstriking your opponent, man. I don't know. I was impressed, especially just because even though he was technically the favorite, all the late sharp money was coming in on Carlos Jr. And I feel like it was kind of a trendy upset pick to pick Carlos Jr. over Tavares, and I'm sure a lot of that had to do with coming off the ACL injury. And I always love guys seeing coming back from injuries, and looking good because we've seen a couple of them lately where they came back up from either a long layoff or an injury, and then they didn't look the same. So I always love seeing guys come back and perform well and look right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who do you want to see, Brad? I hate that we always do this middleweights. But we have to, right? Because it's so packed.
The back end of that middleweight division is so stacked.
I think Shabazian is 13 or 12. Is that who he should fight next?
I honestly, the only reason I'm going to say no is because and I'm not saying he wouldn't beat up Shabazian. I think he actually probably would, but I want to see Shabazian. Because I've been pretty clear on this show that I don't think Shabazian deserves that high of a ranking, and I've said that multiple times.
Well.
And so I kind of want to see Shabazian okay, dog, go ahead and get you a top 10 and get pieced up.
Well, Brunson just pieced him up, so it's and Brunson's 8 or 6, one of those two.
I'm saying numbers-wise, matchup rankings, McGee's wise, it would make great sense to see him against Tavares, and I think it's a good fight for Tavares too. because it's definitely, I think, a winnable fight, and also, would help build his name and kind of get him back on the ascension. So I'm definitely not mad at that matchup. It's hard for me to think of another name.
I could also see Jacare Souza versus Tavares as well, since Jacare is coming off that KO loss to Kevin Holland.
Ooh, that would be
it's a good name for Tavares to build on too.
I think Souza's way tougher than Shabazian.
Oh, that's interesting.
I still have respect for Souza. I think Souza's.
You got no respect for Shabazian.
I think that's really more what it is. but speaking of Shabazian, I'm pretty sure him and Arman Tsarukyan are like countrymen or know each other. I don't know. They were definitely Shabazian was supporting Tsarukyan a lot on social media. And probably, we'll keep it pushing to this next fight. Yeah, I think they're both Armenian. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Tavares ends up getting the unanimous decision. I don't know if we officially said that or not, but it's pretty obvious. I scored at 30-27. I'm pretty sure the judges scored at 30-27.
Yeah, one judge scored at 29-28, which I don't know which round he gave to Carlos Jr. Maybe round 3. I don't know.
Yeah. God damn it! There's always that one fucking judge. Always.
Just has to be an asshole. Yeah, but yeah. I had it unanimous 30-27 as well.
All right, for sure, man. Yeah, we'll keep it pushing. Tavares looks good. top 15 middleweight, and we always talk how deep that division is, and there's plenty. That's the fun thing about the middleweight division. Just from a matchmaking perspective, there's a million different directions you can go there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, we'll keep it pushing. Arman Tsarukyan versus Matt Frevola. Another one of these massive money lines. Minus 700 favorite for Arman Tsarukyan, who's only 24 years old. Matt Frevola at a plus 500 underdog. Fighting at lightweight, which is, the division of the night.
I love Frevola's nickname, just as a side note.
What was it again?
Matt the Steamroller Frevola.
Oh, yeah, that's fire. I remember when they said that. I was like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But then hearing Bruce Buffer say Steamroller was pretty fire.
Steamroller, yeah.
That's pretty fire. Got to point it out. Arman Tsarukyan did miss weight. It was by 1 pound.
Yeah, it sucks for him, too, because if he'd had 30 more minutes, he felt like he could have made it. He did get the additional 30, but he was like, if I had an hour, I think I could have cut it.
Yeah, man, which, I don't know. It's interesting, especially for the fact that he's 24 years old.
Right, like you clearly are struggling. But he might just need to diet better outside of his camps.
No, I agree. Like, I'm not saying it's like a lost cause, and I'm pretty sure it's his first time missing weight. I mean, hopefully it's just kind of a blip on the radar, kind of the exception, not the rule. But like I said, I don't know. Whenever an older guy misses weight or I'm always like, or a guy's like moving down a division and misses weight, I'm always like, I kind of understand where he's coming from. But a 24-year-old missing lightweight, it's just kind of...
It ain't great.
It ain't great. It's a red flag. I'm not saying it's even smoke or fire, but it's a red flag for sure. But
it sucks too, man, because there's so many of those guys that say, like, they can't make 55, but they could make 60.
Oh,
like George St. Pierre is one of those guys.
Yeah. No, for sure. Definitely a big gap between 55 and 70. Dustin Poirier will tell you that firsthand. And so will McGregor, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like I said, just something to note. But that's really the only negative things I have to say about Tsarukyan. It's not even really negative. Like I said, it's probably just a one-off. But, I mean, because at 24 years old, I mean, performing the way he's performing,
undefeated, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, I didn't write it down. He may have one loss, but either way.
He might have one.
Yeah, either way. I mean, up-and-comer, hot shot prospect, 24 years old. I just can't overemphasize 24 years old. Like, most guys don't even get their shot till they're 27, 28. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, 24 years old and is really young. Let's say, so round 1, Tsarukyan. He had the I gave round 1 to Tsarukyan. He definitely led the strikes.
I'll say, it was closest round of the fight was round 1.
Yes, Frevola made it interesting, but that's all it was.
Absolutely.
He didn't do enough to win the round. I don't think anybody should have given Frevola that round. But I said he once again kind of going back to the last minus 700. Like, it was way closer than it should have been for being a minus 700.
Exactly. Like, the fight felt way closer than it needed to be the entirety of the fight until the final round.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, round two is just more grapple domination, ground and pound, scrambles. Um, and then round three was more grappling and more scrambles, but Armand just performed better in those circumstances in round three
He
than he
looked a
did.
lot more in control. You know what is crazy? About halfway through the second round, they flashed a stat that he was 5 of 7 on takedown attempts. Sarukian was. I didn't realize he had 5 takedowns in 6.5 minutes. I don't know how I didn't realize it, but I just feel like they weren't. I guess Frivola was back up quick on a few of them, but I was just like 5 already.
Yeah, I didn't count the takedowns, but I mean, it was just Armand's grappling, like, class essentially.
Right.
He just outclassed him on the ground. And in the scrambles, Sarukian looked great in the scrambles. Just
Yeah,
I
his
don't know.
grappling was nice.
Sarukian, he reminds me of another one of these fighters, and there's a lot more of these. I feel like coming into the UFC where technically sound, but I question like the mean streak. Like I question like how
Almost
dangerous is he? Like does he
like
like hurting people? Like
they're
what I mean?
technicians, not fighters at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which the
It's almost like
UFC
a
used to.
DN that's not mean. Like you have to be mean to play
Which
DN,
we see a lot of
just
that
outright.
too, like these like freak athletes and 5-star guys and former basketball players. Like, oh, I'm 6'5", I'll go be a pass rusher. When it's like, yeah, that's why I hate the term pass rusher now, because like, no, you have to be a defensive end, motherfucker.
Yeah,
Like
you got
you,
to defend the
if
end of the
they
line
run
of the
power
inside.
at you or stretch at you, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you gonna rush the passer then? Like, what pass are you gonna rush if they're running 46 power? But
That's why Striker couldn't play in the NFL.
yeah, no, for sure.
Mean Streak didn't have the size.
Yeah, but I question, and listen, he's only 24, and maybe he's just still focused on technique and learning, and maybe he's thinking a little too much. Certain fighters, I just don't see the dog factor, and I'm not saying that doesn't mean he won't win a lot of fights and have a successful career. The best of the best of the best have that little nasty switch that they flip on. Poirier is the prime
Poirier
example.
is the prime example. He developed it too. Like he didn't start with it.
Yeah. You have to have. I mean, you can be as respectful as you want to before and after, but in between those bells, inside that octagon, you got to have kind of bad intentions, man. I mean, the
You got
best
to be
of the
willing to
best
get hurt
do.
and hurt them.
Yeah, the best
Yeah,
do. The best do. And it has nothing to do with being a prick or having bad sportsmanship. It's like even like Khabib's another good example. Like in the octagon, I mean, he's trying to fuck you up and
Oh yeah.
dominate you. But so I would love to see Sarukian in his next fight. Just get a little nastier, maybe a little elbow when you're in those dominant grappling positions. Maybe a little neck crank here or there. Just something that shows me that you want him to not like to feel pain. You know what I'm saying? It's like because like the
Yeah.
scrambles, the fundamentals, the technique. I mean, he checks a lot of boxes, and he's so young. And I was a little worried about the cardio, seeming that he missed weight. But in the third round, I mean, he looked fine to me.
I did forget to note as well that Pena got a bonus, and she was the only one from the prelims to get a bonus.
She did?
Am I wrong?
Am I tripping? Yeah, I think you are wrong.
I am wrong. It's the next woman. It's the next woman.
Yep, it is. So that actually was the featured prelim, and man, it was a pretty good prelim. I mean, we had the upsets, we had the finishes, we had the close decisions. I mean, it really delivered. We had the young up and comers. We had the rankings. I mean, I was very happy with the prelims. That was a prelim that was better than it looked on paper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like odds wise, it looked like it was going to be a bunch of just like landslides.
Yeah, for sure. And we got plenty of upsets, man. So yeah, that was a fun prelim. But I mean, let's be real. Last night was all about the main card, and that's even coming from prelims McGee over here. It was a night about superstardom. It was not a night about like role players. Like like whenever LeBron James comes to town, you're not worried about, how many points the 12th man on the bench had. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. That's exactly right.
And but yeah, man, we'll get this main card underway. Go ahead and introduce us, my guy.
Yeah, so at 115, we have Marina Rodriguez, number 9, at plus 250. Interesting odds here because she's going up against number 10, Amanda Ribas, and Amanda Ribas is the minus 330 favorite.
always interesting. I gotta say though, usually that's been paying off. Like just kind of, I don't know, that's just kind of anecdotal evidence. But
I completely
lately,
agree.
whenever the higher ranked fighter is an underdog, usually it plays out that way. Like there's
Absolutely.
but
And
like
I mean,
usually in that scenario, the higher ranked fighter is like somebody kind of like we saw. Who's the lady we hate? Roxanne Modafferi. She's kind of hanging on to that name, like she used to be much higher, but has lost it. And so usually that's the scenario you find yourself in. But this was not one of those cases.
No, I mean, although I will say the first was a pretty tight first round. Low activity.
Low activity.
I thought Ribas actually won the first.
I gave round one to actually, bro. Actually, I can't not mention this because it's Brazil, and I've gone on this on past episodes of the podcast. Don't you mean Rodriguez and Ribas?
Yeah, sorry, Mahina Rodriguez and Amanda Ribas. Yeah, it's crazy that they just get to decide when an R is an R and when an R is an H. I'll never understand
it. They just need their own alphabet, like the Russians, man. I guess. Fucking R's that. But
like when they come into like a classroom and they're calling roll. Think about when they're in elementary school. Like the teacher's just like guessing every time, like Amanda Ribas, and she's like Ribas. Yeah, that's exactly right.
For sure, man. I gotta say though, Ribas is a thick strawweight, man. Like just. Her build.
She's also very attractive.
Dude, she does not look like a strawweight at all. Like strawweight, they're called strawweight. It's usually like straight. Like she's definitely a voluptuous strawweight for sure. You don't see that too often. Ribas, she was on top essentially the whole round one. I mean, I don't really see how you. I mean, like I said, she didn't do a lot with it, but I really don't see a scenario where you give Rodriguez round one. And then in round two though, Rodriguez. Really
Rodriguez, dude.
Rodriguez, yeah, that's right. Still another H in there, but but man, she really turned it up a notch. She dropped Ribas with the striking, and then this was the crazy. I want you to describe Herb Dean's handling of the stoppage
I'm done with Herb Dean getting fights that matter. I'm done with Herb Dean. His sense of like when to stop a fight and how he goes about it is completely fucked. Like, dude, and Danny even said it. He doesn't know himself if he's going to stop it or not.
It almost reminds you of like when an NFL referee looks at a really close catch and it's like, well, fuck, do any of us know what a catch is anymore? Like, you know what I'm saying?
And he just like looks around and he's like, incomplete. And then they go review it. Thank God they can at least review it and get the right thing sometimes.
Yeah, but they didn't even use review. That's what it also annoys me. Like they always say, we have this new review system, and then they never use it. I know other sports use it too much. Shout out the NFL and even baseball reviews. Are awful. Oh my God. But but I'm just saying, what's the point of having it if we're just gonna like let Herb Dean like pump fake the stoppage? He was like Brett Favre on a fucking fly route. He's just like,
he pump faked the cameraman and the announcers. He pump faked Rodriguez.
No, man, it was fucked up. I mean, Rodriguez openly said, I mean, what is going so what it was Rodriguez dropped Ribas. Forgive me. Amanda, yes, he dropped Amanda, and then Herb Dean like essentially sprints in and does like this, but then like doesn't officially separate.
He doesn't separate or like put his hand in between or like turn and cover and protect. But he just like waiting. Like it was so yeah, right. Like he literally got to the point where he should have stopped it because he got too close to the action. Yeah. Imagine you're in a fight and the ref literally gets this close to being in between you. You're gonna both stop and be like, what?
Yeah.
What?
So then Rodriguez stops hitting her because she's 100% thinks that Herb Dean is going to stop the fight.
Yeah.
And then Herb Dean like steps back. Both fighters. So everybody gets up, steps back, and like they have like a Mexican standoff where they're like all three looking at each other.
And Ribas is like kind of back and forth, like I could still fight if you didn't call it. And Herb Dean looks at Marina Rodriguez, and I could hear him say, "I didn't call it."
Yeah, but it's like the fuck you did it. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, bitch, what do you mean? And then
they're both like confused, and then like they're both like looking like they're hurt, they're looking at each other. It was awkward.
And then Rodriguez is like, okay, and just starts tagging the shit out of Hebus again.
Yes.
And then Herb Dean. Herb Dean, by the way, on every punch that Marina Rodriguez landed, he was like standing next to her when she was doing it, like waiting, essentially, like, if you land 3 in a row, I'll just go ahead and stop it. And it's like, Herb Dean, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
dude.
it seemed just so helter-skelter, like no rhyme or reason. Because as much as like I'm not even really having an opinion on whether or not the first one should or should not have been a stoppage. My opinion is on how Herb Dean handled it. And but then I also have a second opinion about the second stoppage. The second stoppage was like such an extension of the first stoppage because like they were both still standing when he called it the second time. And it's like, so this is a stoppage, but that wasn't? Like, what are you doing? It was just a random, like, you remember you like go to like a zoo or a museum as a little kid and they have like the little, it's like a brown lunch bag for $5 and you don't know what's in it. Like the grab bag, it's just like you don't know what you're gonna get. Like it just there was.
I can't stand the reffing anymore.
The first one was not a stoppage, but the second one, when they're both still standing, was a stoppage. And I'm not saying that like I wanted to see Hebus take more damage. That's not necessarily the angle I'm coming from. It's just the consistency, like
there's zero consistency in that.
Yeah.
There's zero consistency. It's like a Joey Crawford NBA game. Like, it almost felt like it was more about Herb Dean reffing the fight than it was about fucking the fighters actually fighting.
Yeah, man, it's like Herb Dean's performance lately is not matching up to his name. Because you hear Herb Dean, you think of prestige and what, been there for
best in the game.
And it's just he's been off his fucking game lately, and I don't know
for like 2 years.
Yeah, man, and I don't know if it's like you think it's like paralysis by analysis because we talked about it before on the podcast where modern MMA has a much quicker trigger. So do you think sometimes because he's been doing it so long, he has like two brains, like the pre-2010 what definition of a stoppage?
I really think he does.
Then, the new definition of a stoppage.
He gets more involved in like getting close as fuck to stop a fight than any ref I've ever seen. Like even when dudes in other fights, when dudes get dropped, like Conor Poirier, he didn't make Conor eat a whole lot on the ground. Like in a fight of that magnitude, most refs are going to let Conor actually take a few more shots. It's not boxing.
Like you don't get you don't get like knocked down and then get like a chance to like recover or like in MMA, the knockdown is literally there shouldn't be a pause in the break or a pause in the action on a knockdown.
Right.
Like that should be a knockdown is the start of a finish in MMA.
Exactly. It's not like you need to be like standing over and waiting for because he literally. It's a great point you're raising that someone will get knocked down and he'll be standing essentially over them like the other fighter is, waiting for that fighter to just land 2 shots, and he's going to put his arm in and be like, "That's it." And it's like, dude, can you just back up and let them finish this fight the right way?
No, I totally agree, and that was one of the things I wanted to spend time talking about this because in all the huge megastar headlines of last night, this is definitely going to get lost in the shuffle, and I'm sure Herb Dean's glad about that. But it was whack, and Dana was not happy either after the fight. He said,
he was definitely not happy.
Yeah, I forget exactly how he worded it, but he said something about how that was a shit show or something. It was. I mean,
he said that she essentially knocked her out twice in one fight. And he was like, that shouldn't happen.
I disagree with that even though that sounds like that's a cool little one-liner to say because she did it. The second stoppage, they were both still standing. So I just don't understand.
It was a shit show.
Yeah, it was a shit show, man. But Marina Rodriguez cashes as a plus 250 underdog, even though she was the higher ranked fighter, beats a top 10 Amanda Hebus, and gets a performance of the night bonus. Yeah, like I said, just the women definitely showed up to bang last night.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, the next fight also super entertaining. Another performance bonus here.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, man.
185. You got Andrew El Dirte Sanchez, one of my favorite nicknames.
Me too.
He was plus 130. He's going against Mahmoud Muradov, minus 160.
And that's another line that moved. A lot of money was coming in on Muradov because it started off as Sanchez plus 115, Muradov minus 145. So the line moved 15 points in either direction.
So I scored the first 2. Muradov, I thought he just had a little more activity and damage that he did. But it was really close, I thought. And both guys seemed really respectful of each other's power.
Yeah, and I totally echo those sentiments. Muradov definitely had more significant strikes, but it was definitely a close round. It wasn't a dominant round. Sanchez was hanging right there with him, and it pretty much like was indicative of the money line, like how this
Right. That's a
score
good way
round
to
one went
phrase
down.
it.
Muradov just was just that much better, and it showed. And then round two, another very close round. I also gave two to Muradov, but Sanchez was landing some clean shots. Like he wasn't necessarily, I wouldn't say rocking Muradov, but Sanchez had a fair share, a decent amount of nice little shots he landed, but just not more than Muradov landed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought, yeah, round two and round one were essentially the same, except for the fact that Sanchez got a little hurt at the end of the second.
Yeah, definitely. Muradov looked good. I mean, he didn't necessarily look just like overwhelming or dominant, but he looked great. And then round three is whenever it was more just like an accumulation. Like it wasn't really like one crazy shot that like rocked him. It was like he like swarmed him with like a barrage.
Yeah, to end it, but that right hook that he hit him with had Andrew
a
Sanchez dancing on his feet.
Oh yeah, and then he just kind of swarmed in for the finish.
Yeah, big flurry, which
and that's how it should be. Go down from a referee.
Exactly
standpoint.
right. Jason Herzog steps in at the exact right time.
Yeah.
Like he let Sanchez get put down and then eat some shots, and he was like, okay, now it's over. It wasn't like, oh, he's rocked, he's in trouble, I need to run to his side.
Yeah,
It's like, no, dude, let the fight happen.
100% agree. It's exactly how I feel. Now Muradov got a performance of the night bonus for this, and I mean, I don't know.
You disagree? You think Pena should have got it?
Yes, that's exactly took the words out of my mouth. I do think Pena should have got it. I think they definitely are trying to build up Muradov. And he looks good. I don't know, in the middleweight division, man, it's so hard
tough,
to project
it's
the
so
guys.
Deep.
Yeah, it's so deep and just.
Are they 50 deep in middleweights? Because I feel like we're talking about different middleweights every week.
Yeah, this was a middleweight heavy card too. A lot of middleweights on this card, but no, good point. And they're
not even the top 15 though, besides Brad Tavares.
Yeah. Do you think the next matchup should be? I guess that'd be kind of a little disrespectful to Tavares, but I was saying Muradov Tavares, like they both fought on this card. I mean,
I don't hate that at all.
I don't hate it for sure. I don't know. I mean, maybe not though. Maybe second fight off the ACL. Maybe they're not trying to rush and like.
And Tavares did get a win as the betting underdog, so like they're going to throw him some respect for that, I think.
Yeah, that would be a pretty good fight next for them too, Muradov. But yeah, Muradov, he looked good. He didn't like wow me though. Like I don't think like the performance of the night. I was much more impressed by Pena's performance than.
I agree.
Well, I guess maybe not though, because performance. It's like how technical and lawyer do you want to get with that? Because performance, if you think about it, Pena lost 2 rounds essentially.
Well, I thought she won one of them.
Yeah, but I mean, just performance-wise, like Muradov was more.
It gets hairy.
Yeah,
it gets hairy.
Yeah, for sure, man. But it is what it is. Muradov gets the win. The TKO over Andrew Sanchez.
It's almost like a comeback might be more impressive because you came back. It's not, but it is. It's like the Patriots winning against the Falcons when they hit that comeback. Like it's legendary because of the comeback, not because they just won.
Not because they played super well. Yeah, good point. Yeah, man. But man, I would definitely want to spend time on this next fight because like this next fight may have been the most entertaining fight on the card.
It was great. If you want to introduce it, I actually missed the odds because I was making a coffee.
Oh no worries, man. Yeah, so we have number 6, Jessica I, number 6th ranked flyweight at minus 105. I guess that would be the underdog versus Joanne Calderwood, the 7th ranked flyweight at minus 115. So we had a razor thin money line here. And, the rankings, McGee and me loved it, a 6 versus 7. and it played out just as close as the rankings, as close as the money line. I mean, that's kind of how this fight went down. We got a banger, man. These women were not afraid to exchange. There was some bad blood going into it. They were a little bit salty with each other.
Jessica I had a good chin, bro.
Yeah, man. And they kept coming together in these, like, violent clinches. And I don't mean violent because of like what was landed once they were engaged in the clinch. Like
it was the way they engaged.
Yeah, like they would come together and lock. It looked like when two elks like lock like horns and they get kind of like stuck together. They would just like both grab each other's braids and just it was just so intense, man. Like they just you just don't see it. Like there was literally an explosive come together for the clinch. Like, and it wasn't.
It was cool
because you see explosive elbows and knees get landed in the clinch, or like explosive takedowns, or when they break the clinch. But coming together with so much force, you don't see it.
It was almost like they both wanted to like shoot at the same time or like throw something, and they both were like, oh, and just like would duck their shoulder or head to not hit heads, and just boom.
Yeah,
it was tight.
It was cool. It would just visually look different than other clinches you see for sure, especially for most flyweight women. Yeah, round one, lots of clinch. They were both getting after it. It was a very, very close round. I think probably the closest round of the fight. I
would say so.
I definitely gave it to Calderwood. She did have the strike number advantage on paper, but I do think it was essentially Ai's best round in my opinion. It was a close round. They were both
that was by far the closest round. Like if you had gone to Jessica Ai on that, I wouldn't have been mad necessarily, but I would have said that I thought Joanne Calderwood won it.
Yeah, for sure. Great way to word it. Like I said, they just started from the opening bill. They locked in one of those violent clinches and were just going. It was almost like two animals fighting. Like it was just like fucking like locked together.
Well, they're both pretty aggressive girls, and like even in the second round, like it was still pretty close, pretty tight round. Like even Jessica Ai had a few good moments there, although Calderwood probably started out way a little more in that round.
Yeah. So how I described round two was like Calderwood was definitely the more efficient striker. But I got the takedown, but then proceeded to kind of do nothing with it, and it kind of reeked a little bit of like too little too late, but she did kind of end the round on top. So I could see how some chode-ass judge out there that could get a little murky for him, but I definitely had round two going to Calderwood.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, exactly right, man. I agree with everything that you just said because, like, I had a few good moments, but, like, overall I think Calderwood just did more with it.
Yeah, for sure. And then they said it was a close fight. It was a good fight. This was one of the weird fights that was super close, but I scored it 30-27. I
also did.
But it was a razor thin fight. Like it was
honestly, every round was super close. So the entirety of the fight is like, you know, if I had to give it like out of 100, it's like 55-45 split, you know, like it, or maybe like a 53-47. Like it was close, you know what I mean?
It was super
but 30-27 doesn't reflect that.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where the paper doesn't always necessarily reflect like how close of the fight it was. Because I gave round three to Calderwood, but that round was a toss-up until like the last like 45 seconds of it. Calderwood didn't really secure that round until like the very end of that round. It was a close-ass round, man. It really was. It was like three mini close rounds, but just Calderwood just edged her out each time.
That's exactly right. Like I think every round was tight, and they like I would say in descending order. Like first was the closest, second was the next closest, third was the least close, but like all of them were so close still.
I don't know. I think three may have even been closer than two because I don't know. But then I did get the takedown in two. But I don't know. It was a close ass fight. Like I said, hard to say favorite fight of the night just because some of the other names but as far as like totality of the fight, like bell to bell, like gave us the most to like look at. Like I don't know if they were doing like fight of the night or not fight, which they can do fight of the night, but they didn't do fight of the night. I think if they would have done fight of the night,
they would have done fight of the night. This would have been it.
Yeah,
this was the closest, most competitive fight
contest, like the closest contest.
Yeah, and it being 6 versus 7, and the odds being minus 105, minus 115, and for it to really play out that way. Like Calderwood was just that much better. Like those odds were highly reflective of how that went.
Yeah, man. And we called out the odds makers for some of those massive money lines, but they nailed this one right on the head. If a money line could tell a story of a fight, the money line actually tells the story of how this fight went down better than the scorecard in a crazy kind of sense. But man, without much further ado, man, this next co-main event is so much fun.
Bro,
we have so much to talk
about.
Yes.
We got so much to talk about, man. So, 155, Dan Hooker, who's ranked 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he was coming in.
So Dan Hooker at number 6, minus 140 favorite against Michael Chandler, who's unranked, coming over from Bellator, was the champion at 155 over there for a while. He's plus 110.
Yeah.
So
This is a great
obviously,
number.
like,
We said it all week. Like, we didn't have the balls to like pick Hooker, but we said just from a betting perspective, that's a phenomenal number to get a fighter the caliber of Chandler at. We definitely called that.
right, absolutely. And dude, the way it played out, it almost was like Dan Hooker was like kind of frozen in there, like he wasn't really throwing shit at him.
Man, I think.
But maybe that's just Chandler's pace.
I love Dan Hooker, and I know for a fact Dan Hooker is one of the toughest sons of bitches in the UFC. So it finds me really hard to say what I'm about to say. But I'm going to say it because I can only say what my eyes, took in. That's all I'm doing here is kind of telling you how I saw last night through my eyes. And what I saw was a man who did not want the smoke with Chandler, man. And
Seemed like it, though, right?
It almost seems like blasphemy, and I thought that was going to be the least of our issues.
Because Dan Hooker always wants to smoke.
Is one of the most game motherfuckers and down to trade motherfuckers in the whole league. That's why I can't believe I find myself saying these words. It almost feels like blasphemous, but but he just looked like he was running, man. Like, what do they call that in fighting? On your bike when you're backpedaling the whole time?
That's what I mean. He was just constantly trying to keep that distance, and it's like at some point you got to kind of stand your ground and throw some check hooks or something.
And that's exactly what Bisping was saying after the fight. I get it. Like everybody in their dog knew that Hooker's strategy and game plan was to keep the distance, and he can say that's what he was doing. But at some point, you can't literally just backpedal, 100 yards in a row. At some point, you got to try to cut an angle. Just do something, maybe even if it's
do something, throw
a spinning attack,
a teep kick, maybe something.
I thought in Hooker, who trains at City Kickboxing and is known to be a great kickboxer, I thought a huge part of his game plan, when I envisioned this fight in my head,
leg kicks.
I thought in teep kicks
and knees up the middle,
knees up the middle, that's how I envisioned because we all knew his game plan was to keep the distance. But instead of just backpedaling to keep the distance, I thought he was going to use his kickboxing to keep the distance and his reach and his jab. Not just literally sprint backwards. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that was, like I said, I have a hard time believing some of the best coaches in the world at City Kickboxing in New Zealand came up with that strategy. That's why the only thing it kind of leads me to kind of rationalize this with is fear. Or tentativeness, or whatever you want to call it.
He was just tentative. Yeah, he just wouldn't throw strikes at him. And it was like, Dan Hooker, the only way you're going to win this fight is if you throw a nice volume of B-range strikes.
Fucking yes. And
that's
and I
the
blueprint. Thought he definitely could have done that. Because Chandler said he's one of the shortest lightweights. He's 5'8". He has insane power and great wrestling.
Super explosive, as we saw.
But I just don't understand how he was not firing that jab whenever he was rushing in, or countering with us. I guess you got to be careful throwing those body kicks against a wrestler. But I
don't even want to, because we're just taking away from Dan Hooker. I think we should credit Michael Chandler for the way he did the finish as well, which was he just kept that pressure forward the whole way. Threw a nice opposite side body shot to cut the angle off because Hooker was trying to, slide against the cage. So he throws that body shot, so it kind of freezes Hooker, and then boom, that overhand is connected flush on the jaw. Dude, Hooker was out. He was out bad.
Well, and something, I'm going to echo something that DC always says. DC always talks about how essentially the threat of the takedown is almost a better tool to a fighter than actually going for a bunch of takedowns because of how much zapping your gas tank going for a bunch of takedowns can be. And
look at Khabib.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
Or even himself. That DC was great at that as well. Because he would end up in a lot of DC ends up in a lot of striking fights. But his threat of wrestling helps him strike.
But he gets A-range clinch positions too because of that.
Exactly, and that's what I took away from this because, like I said, I can tell the Dan Hooker running away kind of narrative, but if you want to look at it from Chandler's point of view, I kept just every time I rewatched it, I just kept hearing DC in the back of my head, the threat of the takedown, because I think that's what had Dan Hooker running. I don't think Dan Hooker was
Oh,
running.
yeah, that's absolutely what it is. He just
Yeah.
doesn't want to grapple with him.
Yeah, he wasn't running from Chandler. Ironically enough, he wasn't running from Chandler's hands. He was running. He just did not want to end up engaged in a clinch or grappling scenario or pushed up against the fence.
I wouldn't mind Hooker Ferguson moving forward.
That'd be fun. That'd be definitely
I don't
some
mind
blood
that at
and
all.
guts. That'd be some
Both
blood
guys
guts.
off 2 L's. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
And they have I mean,
That's actually,
yeah, I think that's the fight for those guys.
I like that way more. Everybody, and we'll get to it. I mean, it's not like there's anything to spoil. Everybody and their dog knows how last match ended, but because I keep hearing the just generic kind of lazy take of, oh, Hooker McGregor next makes sense because they want to give McGregor a striker, and I'm not saying it would be obviously it would be a good fight, but I think Hooker Ferguson actually makes more sense. I really do. Especially as far as like sorting out the division, because I think we've established at this point that Hooker's not like top.
But then it's like who?
But
But then it's like who does McGregor fight? Because he's then the odd man out. Because Gaethje's still there. Charlie Olives is still out there.
I think that's a bad matchup for McGregor. But I think if you're looking at it from an objective point of view and not trying to toss McGregor a bone and not trying to pad his record and not trying to like protect him and give him winnable fights, which the UFC's been accused of lately. I
think the answer is Gaethje.
I think that would be so fun. I mean, honestly, bro, I think the real answer is Oliveira Gaethje, and then the winner of that gets Conor, and that gives Conor a little time to heal.
Well,
but I know
Conor sitting all this, or Poirier. Oh, they fight each other.
Yeah,
I see where you're
going. And it's kind of hard to separate these two. It's kind of one big conversation, so I don't really mind how we're doing this. But
this is like the lightweight tournament essentially. And we'll break down Conor and Dustin in just a second.
Totally. But Poirier after the fight was I don't know if you saw this. He was extremely dismissive of the thought of fighting Chandler. He said Chandler beat one guy that I already beat, and he's like,
why would I do that?
And he gets a title shot when I've been here fighting because I'll be real, my knee-jerk reaction, like as soon as the fight was over, I was like, oh, without a doubt, Poirier Chandler is like the captain obvious decision to make. But
he's put Gaethje out, so he doesn't want to fight Gaethje. It's obvious who Poirier wants.
I just thought that Poirier was like completely shat all over the idea of fighting Chandler next. Now, that doesn't mean it won't happen. But I don't know, man. It was enough to change how I felt. Like I said, after the fight, immediately following the fight, I looked at Nina and I was like, oh, without a doubt, I mean, obvious, duh, it's Chandler Poirier. But then after hearing Poirier talk, like there wasn't a single like counter argument I could make. Like Poirier's, and it wasn't coming from like a salty place or a jealous place. He just like laid out the facts, A, B, C. Here's reasons A, B, C, why that doesn't make sense. And I was sitting there like, well, I don't have shit to say to that.
You could run back Conor Nate if Nate will come to 55, and then you could put Ferguson with Hooker, and then you could have Oliveira fight probably Poirier for the belt, and then Gaethje fights Chandler.
I have zero issue with any of that. That sounds like a ton of fun.
I think all those fights are great, easy to market, and they all make sense from like a win-loss perspective and where they stand in the division currently.
I feel it. A lot of people are saying the same thing kind of about Chandler, though, that they're saying about Oliveira, that Oliveira needs one more like legit-ass win before a title shot.
I think the way he dismantled Ferguson, I think he's there.
That's fair. That's fair for sure. The only thing that's weird when evaluating Oliveira, right? All these other guys, I guess kind of besides Conor at this point, but all these other guys, and I'm not including Tony Ferguson or Dan Hooker in this either, but of the remaining kind of like contenders in the lightweight division, right? None of them, I don't feel like has showed us the downside that Oliveira showed us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the early career Oliveira, like,
true. There was never but he showed us growth in that sense too.
Yeah, which so has Poirier, and I mean Gaethje has the loss to Poirier. I just I don't know, man. I don't know. It's so Oliveira just presents that other side of the coin that I feel like what is Gaethje's downside? Losing to Khabib and Poirier? Like besides that, Gaethje's giving us kind of nothing but upside. And I mean, how far back do you want to go?
Well, that's why I think it should be him and Chandler. Because you got to test Chandler's upside now.
That makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense, and they're both more. And then so we already gave Chandler a striker. He dispatched him with striking. Now, if Chandler out grapples a grappler, you know what I'm saying? It has opportunity to build a huge storyline. I actually love that. But so I mean, if you haven't been able to infer from all this, you know, Chandler got the first round TKO of Dan Hooker.
Brutal.
And he just dynamite in his hands. He touched him pretty much sort of right to the body, left to the chin, and then he did finish him up on the ground, but it was over after the left to the chin. Man, it was shocking. I gotta say though, so like if we're just like if I wasn't able to watch the fights last night, like I was locked in a cave during the
I'd have been shocked by the results.
Well, and then I call you, right? I'm like, and I don't say how. I'm just like, you know, who won Chandler Hooker? And you said Chandler won by knockout. In my head, I would have envisioned like a ground and pound knockout, or like you know, he just wore him down, like
a war, gets a takedown, finishes him.
Yes, but I never in a million years would have envisioned a scenario where the floor doesn't even touch the mat and Chandler gets a standing first round knockout over Hooker.
Crazy.
Did Hooker even land a significant strike?
Maybe a leg kick?
Maybe.
But nothing really.
Yeah, man. Chandler could have gone and done a fucking, you know, photo shoot after that fight.
He was fine.
He was fine. Now, we haven't got into this a little bit. The MMA community has been kind of split on the reactions to this. How do you feel about the call-out, like Chandler's post-fight call-out and kind of like alter ego or like whatever that voice was? Like he quite literally did like another voice. Like that's kind of where he lost me. Like I have zero problem with what he said, but the shtick was like kind of corny.
He's kind of a WWE kind of a guy. Like he kind of vibes with that world. So it's just who he is. Like when he's after a win, he's always that kind of guy that makes like an insane call out. But then like outside of that, like he's a super respectful, awesome guy.
And his comments, that's why it didn't like match for me. Like it was like false. It didn't ring true. Like it just seemed so like corny and forced, and like because I've seen a lot of podcasts with Chandler on him, and I've watched a lot of interviews.
Super cool guy.
Super humble, super cool, super respectful, super family, super God. And then like I said, if he literally would have said the exact same words and just didn't do the corny Macho Man Randy Savage voice, I would have been on board with it. Like, why the voice change? Like, that's corny as fuck. He was like, and I call out Khabib and Conor McGregor. Like, he was so corny. Like, I've literally listened to hours at this point of Chandler talking. And that's not how he talks, like, not even a little bit.
Yeah, I think he was probably adrenaline rushed hard from that.
I hope that's what it was, because if that's just like a conscious decision, I just think he missed the mark. Like, I don't even disagree with like the spirit of what he was trying to do with like a big dramatic call out. That's great. I love when fighters do that. That's great for your brand. But the whole point of that is to build your brand. And if you're doing your call out and your build your brand moment in something that's not your brand, then it's not building your brand. And I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about that. Like I said, I had zero problem with what he said at all.
It was just how he said it.
Yeah, quite
literally how.
Like
his voice.
That was awkward and just whack. But I'm high on Chandler. I mean, how could you not be?
Oh yeah. Like I said, I want him to fight Gaethje next moving forward.
Gaethje or Oliveira?
No, I want Chandler to fight Gaethje.
Oh, that's right. Okay. No, that would be sick. They're really similar fighters.
Right, exactly. They're both high pedigree wrestlers that actually can strike and violently strike. And they're both down to go to a war, and they both press forward.
And I feel like they're both like kind of short and stocky. Like they're both like built similar. Like they're very similar fighters. Very similar.
I really like that fight for those reasons.
All right.
Gaethje might get that work put on him.
I was gonna ask. I was like hypothetically in the simulator, in the Madden simulator, like I
probably lean Chandler. He's a better overall wrestler, and he's down to actually use his wrestling. Gaethje won't use his wrestling.
You know what I think though too? That would be a huge factor. Is like the mental factor of that one. Like
Gaethje's leg kicks though are intense, and those are hard for lead wrestlers to deal with.
I'm just saying, like, mentally, it depends where Gaethje's at. Because Gaethje, he has the loss to Poirier, he has the loss to Habib.
He beat Tony Ferguson, beat the shit out of
He
him.
beat the shit out of him, but then somebody else has since then. You know what I'm saying?
True.
And I just want to know where Gaethje's at mentally. Like, because if Gaethje's like, what I'm saying is, like, say they're both even, like they both have like the same 2K rating, but Gaethje's kind of questioning himself mentally and wondering how good he really is. And Chandler's on top of the world mentally, thinking he can go beat King Kong right now. Like, I think that could be like the X factor in that fight, is kind of just where they see themselves. And now Justin Gaethje hasn't lost an ounce of confidence, or just kind of approaches his loss kind of like how Poirier approaches his losses. Like, Poirier doesn't like let it like get too down in the dumps or change his opinion of himself. Like, I think it just depends how Gaethje's feeling about himself. If Gaethje's feeling on top of the world and that like he's tired of being slighted and left out of this conversation, then
I feel like for Gaethje, he's got to look at it like my only loss is to Khabib, who has beat all these other guys. So for him, I think he looks at it like Khabib's done, he's gone. Now it's his chance to like go ahead and try and run at it again without him being the guy at the top.
I hope so. Like I said, I want to see like chip on his shoulder, Gaethje. Like, oh, all y'all motherfuckers ain't.
I think we will see
none
that,
of y'all podcasts
because no one's talking about him.
Nobody. It's like he fucking disappeared. Charlie Olives is getting more like airtime than Justin Gaethje right now.
It's crazy.
Hell, Dan Hooker was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes even Tony Ferguson. So it's like, I hope we get that like motivated, like, oh, y'all must have forgot Gaethje. Because if we get that Gaethje, then I don't know. I think he could, I might like him in that fight. But like I said, right now Chandler's fucking riding on top of the world. So yeah, a lot of fun. Chandler does get the performance of the night bonus, which much deservingly so.
Much deserved.
Like, oh my God, I mean, it doesn't get much better. Like I said, man, if he would have came out and had like a Poirier Hooker war, or if he would have came out and just like out grappled him or outlasted him, I would just be like, it's kind of, I could, I think my opinion of him wouldn't have changed that much. But the first round standing knockout of Dan Hooker, like, I'll be real, like my opinion just went through the roof, man. But main event time. And as crazy as that was, and like that honestly could have been a main event, we got both of these fights back to back, same division. Answers the questions we've been talking about on this podcast for literally months. This whole lightweight
God, we're finally starting to get answers. Like, there's only 2 more fights pretty much until you get the top 2 guys.
100%. Like I said, it's just cool because like we've been kicking these cans around and bouncing these ideas around and playing hypothetical matchmaker. Yeah, for like fucking 20 episodes of Beefy Boys Breakdown. And like I said, you said it's kind of coming to fruition and all kind of coming true. And man, so we had number 4 Conor McGregor, minus 305 favorite, fighting Dustin the Diamond Poirier, number 2 ranked lightweight contender, plus 250 underdog though. So fighting at lightweight 155. The cool thing about both of these guys is that they both fought in other divisions as well, and they're both kind of like
fought each other in the other division.
True. Yes. And then, but they've also both fought up, right? They didn't fight at 170. No, they fought at.
McGregor has. McGregor's fought at 170. He's fought Diaz at 70 once, and he's fought him in the rematch at 70, and then he fought Cowboy last year at 70.
Didn't Poirier have a cup of coffee at 70? Or am I tripping? I thought he went up to 70 and then came back down to 155.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't remember him fighting at welterweight.
No, I got my laptop right here. Let me see. I'm about to find this out.
Yeah, so Herb Dean's the ref here, which is obviously like not awesome after his shit ass performance. But I thought that like opening up, Conor looked dangerous. His hands were fast. He was connecting with like good 1-2, 1-2-3 combos. Poirier, however, is tough as hell, and he can eat a shot at 55, man. It is crazy how much his chin has improved going up 10 pounds. So, like, for as much damage as Conor was doing, and I scored him the first round, Dustin was putting in crazy work with the leg kicks, and obviously those paid dividends because I don't know if you saw like the video of Connor leaving the hotel, but he's like using a cane to walk and shit. Like his leg
Yeah.
is fucked up, and the swelling apparently is like moved up into his like upper thigh, and it's like god damn. So
Yeah, I don't think Poirier actually has fought at welterweight. I think he's like hinted at it in interviews and stuff, but he never actually took a fight at welterweight. I think he always kind of said he would or things like that. I think maybe originally he was thinking about fighting Conor at welterweight, but yeah, never mind. So my apologies there. For some reason, I just thought he had, but but yeah, both guys fought in multiple divisions, and yeah, I saw round one exactly the same way, bro. Like it was a great round. Both fighters definitely had things they did well. I gave round one to Conor, but I actually wrote in my notes that Dustin was making it his style of fight. The fact that they were grappling, they were clinching.
yeah,
He was landing
yeah.
those leg kicks. Like it was not because you remember the other day when we were kind of previewing this fight, I was saying how because Dustin in all his interviews and podcasts kept saying that, like, oh, I want it to be a war. I want to trade. I want to exchange. And to an extent, they were doing that. But I feel like when they were just standing and punching in the first, Conor was coming out on the better side of those exchanges. He was landing harder and cleaner.
Yeah, well, Dustin said it in the post-fight interview that he laughed and he was like, "Yeah, the game plan coming in was actually just to like take my time and really set up my like exchanges and get the positions I wanted to fight in." He was like, "I never wanted to just like come out here and just like have a slugfest. I really wanted to come out here and like put on a great fight."
Yeah, so he was definitely pulling the old Bill Belichick injury report with those interviews, which you said he might have been doing. Would you?
Yeah.
I was saying that like I hope he was. I remember specifically, I was like, I hope he is just giving us the rope a dope because I don't know how many times you can plan on letting McGregor touch your chin. Like that was my big thing coming
And
into
he got
this.
touched up a few times.
He did, man. And I know, if ifs and buts were cherries and nuts, the world wouldn't be hungry. But like if Conor was able to land a couple more of them lefts on that chin, there was a couple of times where Conor touched that chin in the classic Conor touch your chin type of way.
It had him hurt.
Yeah, man. I was like, and then we can't fail to mention too. I don't know. Whenever they were in the clinch and Conor landed that first shoulder strike, were you like, is he going to do it?
I was like, no, are the shoulder strikes going to put Dustin on sideways street? Like, no way. And then Dustin started doing it back to him, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, me too, bro. I had the exact same reaction. I was like, oh, Dustin. I was like, but I don't know why I was shocked because Dustin, I mean, there's one word to describe him. It's game, and it's savage, and it's tough. I think there was a little bit of that factor of like that classic scene in the movie whenever like the small person or the girl or whatever punches like the big bad guy, and then the bad guy just like takes the punch and like looks back and you're like, oh, I'm fucked.
You're like, uh-oh.
I think a little bit of that happened to Conor McGregor. I think whenever Poirier,
I think the way his leg was getting chewed combined with him not being able to like put him out was what did it.
Yeah. I think the leg was the physical, and I'm kind of talking about the mental.
But I think I think they're together.
They're together.
I think they are together
The combination of those.
I think the pain in his leg was essentially telling him like, this shit fucking sucks. Like, how many of these shots is he going to eat? How many more shots do I have to eat? Or how many more shots do I have to land before he goes out? Because I can't take more of these shots.
Yeah, and like even taking the name Conor McGregor out of this, right? Conor McGregor can essentially be classified as a knockout puncher. Like I think that if you had to sum up his fighting style in one word, I think that's fair to say. I think he would even probably agree with that. And then Poirier is like a cardio wrestler and like a brawler.
And then he'll get you hurt and get you finished out in like the third, fourth, fifth round.
Yeah, he's known for them late round performances. And Conor's known for his early round knockouts. So just like I said, just take the names off of it and just look at like the profiles of those two guys. Whenever the knockout puncher lands flush and hard and on the chin with his power hand and is unable to even knock down the other fighter with essentially some of the best he's got, like every time I've watched that happen in a fight, it usually doesn't end well. There's like a mental, like I said, that mental, like, oh shit, like I done landed what I wanted to land and he's still coming at me. I think there was a lot of that, but it's impossible to ignore the narrative of the leg kicks too. And I don't even want to say narrative; it's just the fact of the matter. Dustin was super effective with the leg kicks, which on our last podcast we went on this like big like rabbit hole about how leg kicks don't kind of get the credit they deserve, and they totally
Yeah.
impact fights. And it's one of the most kind of
Useful
effective
strikes in the
weapons.
game. Yeah.
And then here, this fight comes out and was totally, altered by leg kicks. They're not sexy or fun to watch, but God damn it, I mean, are they just effective?
Are they effective?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they win fights a lot of times, especially against these explosive knockout specialists. Like if you can chop down one of those guys' legs, man, I mean, it does you a world of benefit. Man, yeah. So Connor's leg was beat up, but it was the right hand of Poirier that actually went ahead and got him on the ground and
Yeah.
dropped him.
Yeah. He landed like probably 3 or 4 rights on their feet before he finally got Connor to just be like, I don't want any more, and put him on the fence, got him down, started landing hard ground and pound, and finished him out. I mean, I was impressed. I was very impressed.
I gotta
And then
say,
the first
man,
thing Connor says on the ground when he's laying down there, and like the medical guys come out, the doctor, he says to the doctor, "Me calf is done." That's what you hear him say,
man,
and it's like your leg is fucked, bro.
yeah, man. I gotta say, and this is really going to be the only kind of kick him while he's down thing I say on this whole podcast, but I gotta say, McGregor sucks at getting knocked out. And what I mean by this, it looks so bad. Like certain guys, when they get knocked out and then they're like still trying to grab a leg, like, and they're kind of still in the fight, or they're still trying to get up. But like when McGregor gets beat, he gets
He's
into
always
these
just
like
like,
childlike, like kind of crybaby looking positions, man. Like and it makes for just the worst / best memes and all that shit.
Yeah.
But like I'm already seeing him, but he doesn't do himself any favors. Like guys get knocked out in like better ways. Like I know it doesn't make sense, and we're splitting hairs here, but the way McGregor, like when he got choked out by Khabib or neck cranked by Khabib, and then he like this time, and even when he he gets knocked out, like he always looks like so scared, like when he's getting knocked out, when he's
He
losing.
just looks like beaten. He looks beaten.
He looks like a defeated man. Like I don't know, like and I don't even know if that's something you can improve. Like that's just kind of one of those like fight or flight kind of just things certain guys have. But when Connor loses, it looks like he gets like punked too. You know what I mean? And it doesn't do himself any favors. Like I said, that's the only kind of like kick him while he's down thing I want to say, because I actually want to take a second now to get on the exact opposite tip. In the way Connor lives his life and talks and his history and how cocky he is, I mean, the world loves kicking people like that when they're down. And I've been seeing it all over social media. Everybody's just kicking him while he's down. He sucks so much. He's done. He's trash. He's overrated. I mean, I'm seeing all these terribly cold takes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm not trying to like, I think last night was more about what Dustin did right than what Connor did wrong.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think like the story is how good Dustin Poirier is and was.
And it's cool because like most of the legit ass people that know MMA and like really are like DC and Ariel and those guys and even John Anik, like that's kind of the narrative that they're spinning. Like, no, this is about what Poirier did right, as opposed to just McGregor's trash and should retire. But like the casual take, which nothing brings out a casual take like a Conor McGregor fight. But the casual take is just that McGregor's super trash and he's done. And
I'm not with that at all. Like I look forward to his next fight.
Well, and I've even just everybody's like, oh, ever since the Khabib fight, he hasn't been the same. It's like, oh, so just Cerrone didn't happen, right? And I know,
yeah, right.
Like that was a lower level opponent. Like it is kind of hard. Like I found myself about to fire that off a couple of times on Twitter last night, but it's an easy fight to retort because I mean, on the last time Cerrone fight, we were about clamoring for him to retire and saying he was done. So I mean, it's totally fair. Like I'm definitely Team McGregor. But it's totally fair after this or do you think it's fair to call into question that Cerrone victory? Like what's that even worth?
No. Like I mean, I think it's a good victory. It's not what a victory over any of these guys that fought last night would have meant.
No,
like beating any of those 3 guys, Hooker, Chandler, or Poirier, would be worth more than beating Cerrone. So like, it is like out of all of his wins in the UFC, it's one of his more low quality wins, which is sad to say because Cerrone is such a good fighter and has so many like fighter records and stuff like that. But it's like, time is the ultimate winner always. Like Father Time is undefeated. So Cerrone's kind of at that point in his career where it's over, you know. And Conor caught him right there at the end of it.
Now, I pray to God that this has like a happy ending, or even not a happy ending. I just don't want to see McGregor go out real whack or like just. But
just keep getting finished or losing because that hurts his legacy.
What does the future of McGregor look like to you, or just in your opinion? Like, because
he's got to win. Like, he's got to put like 3 or 4 wins together and be an active fighter and like literally earn his way back now. Like, I don't give him any special credence anymore. Like,
but does he? I know that's what he needs for this to end well, like in a perfect, like vacuum, perfect world scenario. But do you see that happening?
I think if it's not Poirier or I think Charles Oliveira would give him a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think Oliveira would give him a lot of problems.
And Chandler probably gives him a lot of problems too. If it's not one of those 3 guys, I think he can beat anyone else in the division.
Me too. Oh man, so is this like does McGregor turn to like the new Tony Ferguson? Like you know what I'm saying? Where he's like
we'll see. He's
still
pretty young, man. Like we gotta see this fight. I mean, he hasn't fought in a year. Before that, he hadn't fought in like a year and a half. Like we just gotta see activity. I'm not even gonna speculate on it really because like I think it's all just. It would just be a bunch of bullshit for me to say because I don't know. No, like he's just got to show up. We just got to see.
No, love the fact that you brought that up because I definitely one last thing I wanted to talk about was immediately after the fight, McGregor got in there and essentially I don't know if the word blame is the right word, but I'm going to use it. Blamed inactivity for his performance, and
I hated that he was like making excuses, man. I felt like that was excuses.
Okay, because Chael Sonnen felt different after that fight. You know, they're interviewing Chael and Michael Bisping, I think on SportsCenter or whatever the fuck, ESPN Plus little post game show, and Chael was saying that there's a difference between reasons and excuses, and that he felt
yes.
Conor was more on the reason side than the excuse side. I was kind of straddling that fence, and they said I wanted to get your opinion on that because, like, I think that there's validity to both sides. I think that if he had been more active, he would have performed better. But I also think that it's kind of weak to say that post-fight. I don't know.
But I feel like he had an asinine statement in the sense of like he was like, yeah, the inactivity, you know, the calf kicks, we don't practice those. Well, okay, but if you take 3 months in between calf kicks, does it really help that much?
Yeah. It's like that classic debate because I mean I bet Max Holloway
like it's not like he's going to
start a bunch of calf kicks in practice either.
Exactly right. So you got to figure out how to defend or avoid those, like technically.
Yeah.
So like I felt like that was he was talking out both sides of his neck when he said that.
Yeah. No, I kind of feel you. It's like I said, I personally think there's like some validity. Like, is that some of the reason why he maybe didn't perform the best we've seen him perform? 100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
But, and it's also kind of the thing of like, because he blamed COVID for his not fighting in 2020, but it's like, I mean, Kevin Holland fought 5 times. I mean, it's not like it's impossible. Like the
UFC kind of fucked him on that. I have his side on that.
Because
the UFC was trying to. Yes, exactly that, and they were trying to only book him in like top 2 matchups, and we didn't really know like the fate of the lightweight division. Khabib wouldn't fight him, so they were just like, all right, we'll just shelf McGregor till we have like a place for him.
Okay, that's fair. Now, I do love how he took this loss because on one hand, you can say he made the excuse of the inactivity.
No, he took it well.
But on the other hand, he said he wants to fight like 3 more times this year, and
right.
I love too because they asked him after the fight, like, "Are you done?" And there was not a single pause. Because if there would have been like I'll have to talk to me wife, and like I would have been like, oh fuck, like he has one foot out the door. But he like didn't even give that a second of like thought or like consideration. He was just like, what, done? Like
he was like, no, I want to be here. Like he was like, can I be here? Am I not allowed to fight? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And he makes a great point when he says it. Like, is he not allowed to just go out and fight these top guys? Like, can they not get a McGregor fight because they don't deserve the McGregor fight? Like, if he's down to fight him, let him fucking fight.
I think that's also gonna have to be a shift in the narrative of like a Conor McGregor fight needs to be not looked at as a Conor McGregor fight anymore. And I
This
don't
be
mean
looked at
that
as like a lightweight contenders fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like just like a Gagey fighter. Like I'm not saying look at him like, you know, he's like an underrated prospect and put him on a prelim. I'm just saying like, yeah, like how Poirier fought Hooker on a. I know they're never going to give a McGregor fight away for free, but the Poirier Hooker fight, wasn't that a fight night fight, or am I tripping? Was that a pay-per-view? That was a fight night.
That was a fight. That was a fight night. It was fight night.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about it is like he's not a main event fighter right now. Is he? That's more the question.
That's a great question. Well, I think he is. But they're never going to give a McGregor fight away for free.
A pay-per-view?
No, not for a pay-per-view. But
that's what I mean, because you're exactly right. Like it is this like problem for the UFC of like we don't give Conor away. You can't give Conor away like that. Like he will always sell you 1 million pay-per-views, so you always pay-per-view him.
It would be absolute piss poor business for them to give away a McGregor fight for free. But
exactly.
But in
the same sense, like the tradition of the sport says that your main event is your pay-per-view.
And exactly, can you sell a pay-per-view based on like a co-main? Like what I'm saying, if they like say, and I know this is too soon, but like if they put him on like the Burns Usman card as a co-main, like can you like is that like it's awkward, right? Like
what I mean, then you get into conspiracies of like, well, they put him on a title fight, like a numbered card, right, pay-per-view, and then the title fight gets pulled for some reason, and then he's now the main event after being the co-main.
Oh, if that happens, you heard it here first.
Yeah,
There's
like that's
tinfoil hat. I love it though, because I can totally see some Weasley shit like that.
And in a business world, that's gonna make you a shit ton of money, and you don't have to explain it as like, oh well, he only fights for pay-per-views. Like we know belts are pay-per-views typically, but Conor's special. It's like you don't have to say that for him when you do it that way.
Yeah, but they're kind of in that position to where
they're in that limbo.
If they had like let's just say Conor, who did you say he should fight next? Was it Gaethje or
Gaethje? Yeah.
Conor Gaethje.
No. Chandler Gaethje.
Chandler Gaethje. Then who did you say?
And then,
I thought you were saying Chandler Oliveira.
No, I think Conor should get his rematch with Nate at 55 real fast.
See, now that's a paper. That's the move because you can
pay-per-view
that because the last one wasn't for a belt either.
Right.
Or yeah, that's what they do. What they do, and it just buys them time, right? It lets the rest of that division
lets the other lightweights beat each other up.
It lets somebody get the belt.
Active. Yep, and then he can go challenge for it. Exactly right.
You don't even need like it's almost like the McGregor-Diaz fights are like their separate own little thing.
Yeah, it's funny. They're like almost like a separate they are a trilogy outside of the UFC within the UFC.
Yeah, like it's almost like one of those Tyson Paul like spectacle cards, but it's not.
It's like a spectacle, but they're also very skilled fighters that fight in the right weight classes. That's what's so crazy.
And then if Diaz beats McGregor at 155, like is he like kind of inserted into like that lightweight discussion?
Well, yeah, because he said he wants to come back to lightweight. Diaz did. Yeah. So it's like, fuck. I mean, it's a perfect way to come back if you're going to make a comeback. And if he loses to Conor, he probably retires and takes that money and rides out.
And then if Conor loses to Nate, that's
then you start getting questions.
1-3 in his last 4, right?
Yeah.
And then does he just like? Oh yeah. Oh
no, so that gets interesting.
It gets interesting. Like I said, I love Conor, but I gotta say, man, I love Conor. I predicted Conor would win. I'm a big Conor fan. Whenever Dustin won, I mean, it's impossible to not be stoked for Dustin. No, I mean, Dustin is such a damn cool guy. I mean, everything about his story. I mean, he's been a long time UFC fan favorite. I mean, he's the definition of paying your dues. He's overpaid his dues. He's fought the best in the world.
Always
has been fighting the best in the world for just years and years now.
Stays active. We'll fight on undercards. We'll fight on main cards. We'll be the co-main.
I mean, gave us the Hooker masterpiece. I mean, that fight will forever be one of my favorite fights, up there with Diaz.
Yeah,
McGregor.
absolutely.
And like just like fights to rewatch for fun 10 years from now. On the list.
Yeah, like Adesanya and Gastelum. That's one that's always forever gonna be on the list.
Yeah, man.
Like there's just certain fights that will always be on that list. McGregor Diaz too.
Yes. Yep. I literally just get drunk and watch that fight for fun sometimes.
Yeah, exactly right.
Like I said, so I mean, hard to be like bummed or sad. Like I said, whenever you purely, that's the cool thing about fighting. It takes two to tango. There's a winner and a loser, and they're directly correlated. And so, like, you can't talk about how sad this is for McGregor. Maybe it's not sad. Like I said, I just do not want the McGregor thing to have not have a happy ending. If McGregor comes out and he beats Diaz and then he beats another top 5 lightweight and he just kind of can't quite capture the belt, I'm fine with that. I just don't want to see him, like, go out sad. Like, he loses the Diaz and then say they give him a hooker and he loses that too. And then now what do we have here? I mean, is he fighting Paul Brothers? Is he the gatekeeper?
Fighting Paul Felder? Is he
like,
fighting?
Yeah, is he fighting RDA? Like who? Like, if not, those would be fun fights too. And like, as a UFC fan, I would be like juiced to watch those fights. But it would be kind of whack to see Conor just there. You know what I mean? Like, at that level, like it
doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it doesn't look good.
It's like watching, Richard Sherman get torched by like a second-year receiver at this point of it. It's
and like the NFL is like, that's maybe the difference in fighting too, is they'll let fighters like fight till they're too old and past it. Dude, in the NFL, if you can't make it, they'll cut your ass. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and they'll be happy to cut your ass and save that money on the salary.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, man, like I said, I just don't like this. Is without a doubt. Even though I'm looking at it glass half full, this is a fork in the road for McGregor. And you can say not really, because we got the Diaz thing to fall back on. The Diaz fight is without a doubt a fork in the road if this isn't the fork in the road, because I mean, like I said, if he loses the Diaz fight, I mean, it's hard to like envision a scenario where Conor ever has gold wrapped around him again.
I think I don't think he loses the Diaz fight, man. I think he fucks Nate up. But sorry, my eyes itching. But I agree with you that if he loses that fight, it's a big trouble for his career.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I mean, we got a lot of fun. And like I said, I want the narrative of this podcast, and I'll die on this hill moving forward, that last night was about Poirier looking good more so than McGregor looking bad. Because I actually don't think McGregor looked that bad. Because he, if you think about it, just breaking down like little like things that McGregor did good. A, that left hand is still the left hand, and it can still land it. It can still hurt people.
Still fast.
B, he actually dealt with Poirier's grappling and got back to his feet way better than I think anybody thought he was going to. Like, that looked good. Like, McGregor's like wrestling defense, now the takedown defense, he definitely got caught off surprise and he got taken down easily. But he was able to get back up his feet against a high-level wrestler in Poirier, and who had him up against the cage too. So, I mean, I know that kind of helps you get up to your feet, but I don't know. I thought that was something that looked good. People kept trying to say in post-game shows and on Twitter and stuff that the cardio looked bad. I don't think the cardio – I mean, he got finished in the second round.
He looked fine. He looked fine. Cardio was fine.
I kept hearing that, but, like, that is definitely, like, a narrative that's out there. It's like there's a difference between limping because you have calf kicks and having bad cardio. Like, he
wasn't, like, sucking air. He was fine. He really couldn't walk.
We didn't even get a chance to see the cardio tested, which is actually something I was frustrated with. I was actually kind of thought – because whenever it did survive, whenever Dustin, it sounds weird saying Dustin survived the first when he goes on to win, but that's kind of how it was viewed in real time. Dustin survived the first round, and I was kind of like, oh, are we going to get to see fourth and fifth round Conor's cardio? Like, that's immediately where my mind went, which obviously we didn't get to. But I think it's for a second round knockout with lightweights, to bring up the word cardio was like weird to me. But like people like Bisping and them are bringing it up, and I just didn't see. I'm not saying I know more than Bisping, but I didn't see cardio. Like I could list 10 reasons why Conor lost this fight, and I don't think I'm going to bring up cardio on that list.
No, like you said, it's about Poirier winning. It's not about Conor losing.
Yeah,
like we honestly talked way too much about Conor losing and not about Poirier winning.
Yeah, man, because and I think Poirier's willingness to trade, and I think Poirier has this great, how we were talking earlier about Roundtree not like having the sense of when to go for the kill. Is there a better? I mean, I'm sure there is, but man, Poirier's right up there as far as like knowing when to kind of go for the kill. Am I right?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, he's like a pure savage. Like as soon as he sees that like inkling of your hurt, he starts pressing the pace, starts like trying to land combos. Even if he gets hit with some counter shots, he's like, "You're more hurt than me, so fuck it, we're gonna throw.
We're gonna trade." Yeah,
he throws. Yeah, he's like, if I land, yeah, he essentially says like, if you're hurt, then my one is more than yours because I'm not hurt yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was on full display if we're talking about like feathers in Dustin's cap. Like Because a lot of guys, because Conor was throwing back even when he was hurt, and a lot of guys are scared of eating a shot from Conor. So I think there's a lot of guys not named Dustin Poirier that maybe might have backed off there and then just chalked it up as a win that they hurt Conor and started patting themselves on the back instead of like Dustin. A guy like Dustin smells that blood in the water.
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that going on. But yeah, man, I mean, Dustin, I also agree with everything Dustin said about afterwards about how am I not the champ? How is this not a title fight? Like Khabib openly, like you guys won't let Khabib like vacate essentially. Like
and Dana said that in the post-fight press conference too. He was like, Khabib, he was like, Khabib's not holding up the division. He already said he won't do that. He was like, if anyone's holding the division, it's me. I'm the one that hasn't stripped the belt from him.
Which is bullshit. I don't like that at all. Like Khabib has literally told Dana like 8 different times that he's retired and to leave him alone. And just Dana's just like that guy that won't quit asking.
He wants money.
Out.
He wants money.
Yeah, and it's so obvious that's what it is. And he's even like trying to like if he would just come out and say like, oh my God, look how much money we'd make. Like I'd almost respect it more. But he's like, oh, the unfinished legacy of Khabib, the 29-0, it has to be a nice clean number 30. Like it has to, like, I don't know, man. I don't like why. Like why does it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that it doesn't hold water. It's clearly a money grab.
No, I think Poirier should fight Charles Oliveira next to the title. Like I think that's what it is.
Yeah, for sure. But I also agree with Dustin that like I'm looking at Dustin as the champ right now. I am.
I mean, I look at him as the king of the lightweights, but he's uncrowned. Like you got to have a ceremonial crowning. You can't just give him the belt. He's got to win it now against someone.
Facts. But I'm just saying, like the division essentially doesn't have a champion right now, and like he's the closest thing.
He's the uncrowned king.
Yeah, for sure. Which has got to be frustrating for him.
It's got to be the worst, right? Because you're looked at by everyone as like the top-notch guy, but you can't officially have that title.
And whether Oliveira is better than McGregor or not, which right now he very well may be, the public isn't going to view it that way. So it's like to the general public's eye and the sporting world's eye, it's like, oh, Poirier has to go beat a worse guy than he already beat to get the belt that they didn't give him when he beat the better fighter. Like I think a Poirier Oliveira title fight, if we're talking like pay-per-view numbers or like give a shit factor, it's way lower than this was. Like that's another why Dana should have just put the belt on this one, and I don't know. But or maybe Dana sees it the other way. Maybe he can squeeze 2 pay-per-view checks out of this if he does it the other way around.
He's such a fiend.
Oh man, UFC 257, one for the ages. I mean, amazing upsets, a lot of fun, huge implications, a memorable night. Like I think, just
crazy memorable. Like one of the most memorable cards too, for sure. Just based on like results.
Yeah, based on results, right? When's the last time the co-main and main were both
underdogs,
knockout upsets?
Right. Yeah. Crazy.
First and second round, not even like late round. Yeah, I can't remember time. And then you throw in the name McGregor and Poirier, like all the names, like it would have been an amazing card if it was smaller names with these same finishes. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Same style, same betting odds. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Great card.
So much fun, man. So this was Beefy Boys Breakdown, episode 33. Please go subscribe on YouTube if you like video podcasts. And if you prefer your podcast audio only, we're everywhere you can find your audio podcast. So go ahead and go subscribe us on there as well. Beefy Boys Breakdown. We have a Facebook page, at Beefy Breakdown, Twitter. And you can follow us both on Instagram as well, at Dreadful Talk Dom and at Harrison_Madden. Thanks for everybody that was part of the live show. We do these live on Instagram as well if you want to be a part of that, actually. And yeah, man, Beefy Boys Breakdown, episode 33. It was a busy week for the Beefy Boys, but we ended it with a bang.
Yes, sir. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, everybody. We appreciate it. Appreciate your time today, Dom.
Oh, you're the man, Harrison. Yeah, so much fun, brother. Love talking fights with you, man. You have a great day.
All right, man. Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.